Flim Darvin Hubigen. Oh, Stiff, offen. Great. Now, probably the best time to ask is after we clapped and everything. We're not doing video, are we?
No.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Sound is like the video, but for your ears.
Oh, I was
Right.
before we get started, I'm actually kind of curious. What motivated you guys to start doing
Hello,
that?
welcome to the first podcast. I'm your host, Andrew. I've been here the entire time. I am in no way a guest. This is my show. So I'm going to go ahead and start the episode. Lars, what motivated you to start doing the first podcast?
I don't know. I listened to a lot of podcasts and thought I could do it better.
Would one of those happen to be my podcast?
Yeah, one of the podcasts I listened to was yours. I actually got into it because I was into H3 Productions back in the day.
Oh.
And I heard his guest appearance on there. And I was really confused because I thought the Board Burgers joke was like a serious story. I didn't know that you guys were sneaking it in there. So I was really hopelessly confused. But I did enjoy the episode.
Okay. Now, Kudos, what do you think of that?
I agree, unfortunately.
Great. And Amir, what do you think of that? That sounds exactly like him. That's how you know that he's a part of this episode.
Yeah.
So enough of this dumb little shtick. Lars, why don't you do your real intro? Take us into this actual episode. That was a good warm-up. Haha. I'm glad we didn't record that.
So,
Wait.
okay, well, the tradition on the show actually is to have the guest introduced. So I'll go ahead and... I'll-
Fuck!
You're falling right into our trap.
Shit! All right.
Okay, so we talk about a lot of things on this podcast, but Andrew, why don't you introduce the show?
Hello, welcome to what I said 2 minutes ago.
Play a clip of
This
that
is
with flashback music.
Yeah. Just play exactly what I just said. Put like an old-timey reverb filter on it, like I'm announcing the bombings of World War II. They'll love it.
And then overlay it multiple times and have it clip over each other and make it like impossible to understand.
And then the guy who's not here have like soundboards of him reacting, being like, "Oh, you go, girl," and other like trendy catchphrases.
He would do that
I
too.
love it.
I'm totally going to do all of that in post. Totally. Yeah, yeah, definitely, guys.
So yeah, I was briefed before this episode started, but apparently there's another guy that's supposed to be here, but he's not here. Do you want to explain that to the folks at home, Lars?
I think you explained it pretty well.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
It's like a murder mystery. The audience has to figure out who's missing by the end of the podcast. And if you comment below, and if you get it right, you'll get a 1-year subscription to the first podcast for free.
Ooh.
Yeah. All right, let me just, okay, you know what, assuming this is like the first time some people are going to hear this, since they might come listen because you told them to or something.
I doubt it, but continue.
Okay. So my other co-host here is James, aka Many Kudos, who joined the podcast, in like January?
Oh, it feels like a lot longer.
Yeah, I remember. It was dark times.
It was.
And he's here. He's actually doing his job. And then the other host is Doplex, aka Amir. And for some reason, he just didn't show up today. What a dick.
What an asshole.
Can you really call it a job if you don't get paid?
Wait, you don't pay your employees?
Maybe that's why Doplex didn't show up today.
I hope Amir listens to this episode in the future and he just knows he fucked up. Like it's that waning on his soul. 20 years down the line, Amir, this whole podcast could fall apart or it could be the best in the world. But Amir's working a job at like, I don't know, he's a managing manufacturer.
7-Eleven.
Yeah, he's at Amazon. He's like driving one of those robots around and he's like, oh shit, number 28-B just broke down again. I got it. I got the Servotron. And as he's putting in the warp core so they can deliver packages even faster, I want part of his brain to just go, fuck, I missed the Huggbees episode. Ugh.
Yeah, to be honest, man, like Huggbees episodes of this, there's only been one other one so far, so it's not like a running
the
trend.
long
But
tapestry of Huggbees episodes.
I gotta say, man, I listened back to that episode today just because I was like, oh, I should probably remember what we talked about.
I want to listen to myself
And
again. Oh,
it still holds up, man. We talked about piss soap. We talked about which bug Pokemon we would have sex with.
What
Oh,
the fuck?
yeah. That was when the stupidly hot bug came out. I remember that. Yeah.
Those damn sexy bugs.
Nintendo Game Freak had this fucking little, like, mental trauma where they were like, we want to be Digimon. We're introducing Pokemon that come from space, and they're like aliens, and they're supposed to be, like, complex and weird and totally not Digimon, haha. And in doing that, they made 2 really hot bugs for some reason.
That's just how that manifested.
I don't blame them. There's a lot of hot Digimon, but that's just the way they went with it, I guess.
Some Digimon were just people. It was kind of like Angemon.
That's why they're hot. See, he gets it. Yeah.
Okay, so my default answer for which Digimon I would have sex with is this one. Her name is Angemon, and you're going to see why immediately.
Well, because it's a woman.
I know.
It's Angemon.
No, you're wrong. No, there's only 2 real answers. Number 1 is Renamon, but that's the cliche answer. The real answer is Platinum Suckamon. You know what Platinum Suckamon is?
No, but
What?
It sounds like
Can we get a picture of that
It sounds
for the
like a
folks at
position.
home? Can you beam into the fucking like car radio that people are listening to this on? Can you beam a digital printout onto their LCD display of Platinum
onto their
Suckamon?
windshields.
I'll go ahead and
completely.
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah.
This is great audio content, by the way, guys.
I'll Google it and I'll put it in the chat. But for those of you listening in pure audio land, Platinum Suckamon is literally a sentient piece of shit.
Yes.
And that is it. And he's called Platinum Suckamon. It's an incredible portmanteau of the Japanese language. Sucka is one of the, it's either an onomatopoeia or another word for it, meaning poopy, and platinum because he's shiny and polished and chrome. So Digimon literally has a monster, one of the faces of their brand, that is a polished turd.
It's like a dog turds that gets left out. That was what they were going for. They're like, let's turn. Some Japanese guy was walking home that day and he saw some white dog shit and he's like, of course. He runs back to the office.
It's like one of those perfect swirly turds too, like one of those like cartoon soft serve ice cream poops.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
I hate
Fuck you, Digimon.
I hate that was like a thing. It's like the emoji poo. I hate that was like a cute thing that was like people were getting plushies of it and like hats with the little poo emoji, and it's like it's feces though. It's just feces.
Do you remember when Sir Patrick Stewart, a man is literally knighted by the fucking crown of England and has been in literally world-changing programs such as Star Trek and God knows how many other shows, agreed to be a cartoon poopy in a fucking kids movie?
God damn.
For money?
See, I think that's actually, I was actually pleased with that though. Like
Really?
it's so ridiculously stupid that I kind of found a little bit of amusement. I'm like, that's dumb.
The concept is probably funnier than the movie.
Exactly. Yeah. It's something that should have been a cameo, like a one-off joke. Like they have the movie and the Emoji Movie's playing out, and he's walking around the water cooler, and he's like, "Oh, hey, what's up, man with hat?" And then he
is that not what happened? He was a major character.
He not a major character, but he was a pretty big role in the movie. He did some stuff. He had a good show.
Oh, no, that's worse, though.
Exactly. If he was a cameo, it'd be cute and funny, but it was a solid character. It had some development in there.
They were probably torn because they were like, well, we need to have Sir Patrick Stewart. Maybe they got him in as a cameo, and then they were like, shit, we have Sir Patrick Stewart. We should probably capitalize on this a bit more. And then, they ended up making him like a minor character.
I know the script's been written, guys, but we got Patrick Stewart. What characters are still left to be filled? We have poop. That's it.
We have poop and we have the lock and key emoji. Don't know why that one exists. No, wait, there's one that's lock and pin.
All we have left is smiling man in 5 different shades of skin tones.
We have
which one do we make him?
We have slightly dejected Indian man. That's not going to work.
We have eggplant and water droplets emoji. I don't know why he has a problem with that one. He doesn't want to do that one. It's weird.
Wait, Andrew, you never answered
Lars,
my fucking question.
Yeah, Lars, I was going to say, I'm sorry. I literally derailed your introductory question for 10 minutes of fucking pieces of shit.
No, it's fine. Feel free to derail if it's funny, but I'm actually kind of curious why you guys switched.
Switched what?
To video.
It was just kind of a progression of things. So for those of you out there who don't know what Lars is talking about somehow because you're living in a dumb cave without internet and actively hate when smart, handsome men do really great things, I'm one of the 4 members of a podcast called The Official Podcast. And in the last year and a half. I don't remember the exact time frame. We went from being an audio-only show to a webcam and audio show, still putting out audio episodes for audio platforms. And it was just the progression of how we saw the show going. It was like every other big internet podcast does webcam. Every other podcast that's starting up is using webcam. We may as well just do it. There was nothing to lose by doing it, because the audio format's still going to be the audio format.
Yeah.
But you may as well just, if we all have webcams, may as well just flip them on, and for the people who watch on video, add a little bit more. It's really just, there was no reason not to do it, and it might help the show, so fuck it.
Okay.
May as well.
Well, why does Jackson never actually turn on his webcam then?
His excuse is he is tired or has a headache. And I don't know if I buy that. To me, that's just, I'm a wimpy little baby boy. But
I'm tired, I have a headache. This makes me somehow not able to turn on my webcam.
Look, all I'm saying is this, as a man who can do not 1 but 2 whole push-ups, I am up till like 5 a.m. every night. I'm just very productive late at night. I like having those couple hours just to myself where, no one can bother you and everyone's asleep. And I just kind of get in this zone. It's when I make videos and this and that. So when we record the podcast, our podcast, we have to figure out fucking time zones because we're in 3 different countries around the world. So if I'm waking up at 9 a.m. to do this show, and like that's absurdly early for my schedule, I think we can all wake up or stay up as late as we have to. So when any of the boys complain about being tired, I'm kind of like, nah. No. Yeah, we can man up, do it for an hour, and go back to sleep. Come on.
By the way, just want to go ahead and put something out there. I think you will probably ultimately agree with me on this. As someone who has gone from having his co-host literally like 45 minutes away from me to adding an Australian host to the podcast.
Oh.
Yeah, that was kind of dumb.
Yeah. That just made things a lot more difficult for us. Like, it's
Australian based, I should specify. I don't associate with the devil's people.
You live in Australia,
yeah, and like at the top of an apartment building that I never leave.
So are you New Zealand then?
Yeah,
or maybe I'm not. So you're in the Lord of the Rings. Cool.
Yeah, I know. Well, everyone knows at least one person who was in the Lord of the Rings. I think I know 2.
Have you seen their Air Zealand's safety video for their airline?
Yeah, so those are kind of like memes in the country. Some of them are
Isn't
fucking
that awesome though?
The Lord of the Rings ones are pretty cool. There's some that are fucking atrocious, and if you're flying domestic, which I do a bit, or I did anyway, you see them quite a bit. And there was one that was like, it was a rap one with the kid from Deadpool. I always forget his name.
Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Yeah, Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, it's a real difficult one.
He was also
that guy.
No, he's the little kid who was also in Hunt for the Wilder People. Julian Dennis.
I know if I saw him.
Yeah, anyway, it was a rap song with him and a bunch of other people.
I'm going to Google Deadpool little kid and see what comes up.
Yeah, make sure don't not forget the pool part of that.
Yeah, just look up Dead Little Kid. It should direct you there.
Yeah, this fucking kid. I hated him.
I like him, but he was in it. They had him doing a rap thing, and it was incredibly uncomfortable because, as you can imagine, airline safety does not fit into a rap song particularly well. And this is blasted over all speakers, like at takeoff. And I would just kind of slink down and put my headphones on, even though I wasn't supposed to, and hope I could blur it out. It is incredibly uncomfortable, but I guess good on them for trying to mix it up, I suppose. I was on a Virgin Airlines flight once, which for some reason they gave a discount to me. I don't know why.
I'm sorry to hear that.
But they had their safety briefing was made by like a 12-year-old in Blender. It was really weird. I was like, surely Richard Branson could probably afford slightly better than Baby's First 3D.
One of the weirdest ones I've seen is, I think it's Delta, but they have this like safety video where I think they try to do it in one take, but it very clearly has like hidden cuts in it. And then when it's completely done, everyone in the video celebrates and like has a party. It's like, what the fuck are you trying to tell me here? Like they do the typical spiel like, oh, make sure to look under your seat for the flotation device. And but when it's over, she goes, thank you for flying Delta Airlines. And there's a little pause, and then everyone in the video goes, woo! Yeah! Like they get super hyped for no reason. It's really jarring when it's a fucking sleepy, quiet nighttime flight.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like the same thing in New Zealand when you're getting on this flight, you're tired, you're annoyed because you're having to travel or whatever, and then suddenly there's this like uncomfortable rap song teaching you like it's like early like 2000s 90s white guy like hip hop, you know, like it's not it's really not a good rap song.
Have you been on a flight like by yourself or with a small number of people?
Plenty of times. Yeah, I'd probably fly mostly by myself. Oh
God,
yeah, same.
That's the fucking best one when you're on a plane that seats like 50 people. And there's only like 10 of you on there, so you just have the guy standing in the middle of the aisle awkwardly doing all the fucking safety instructions for like maybe the 2 people who are watching. It's great.
That is very grim. Shout out to those.
They're
guys.
Legally required. That's
probably every flight these days. Because I mean, how many people are like those planes must be mostly empty.
Oh yeah. Oh God.
I always feel guilty putting my headphones on because they make a big deal of you have to listen to this no matter how often you fly.
I know.
Well, it's not like rocket surgery or anything. Like you could probably skip it and you.
Yeah, you should be given a little waiver when you get on the plane, and it says like, if I promise not to sue Delta, I don't have to listen to the safety video.
Oh yeah, totally. That sounds like a great idea.
So 90% of the plane will be already watching like the pre-baked in movies, and like only like 6, I don't know, nerds are going to be watching the actual safety video.
Well, I think you want the nerds to do it because they'll probably do it properly.
Look, if I'm in an emergency, it doesn't matter if I know what to do. It only matters if someone knows what to do.
Just pass the buck.
So if I'm not in an exit row, I don't give a flying fuck. I'm not going to listen to anyone.
By the way, I know that this is going to turn into yet another high-quality shitpost of an episode if we let it, but I wanted to get into something which is slightly more serious, which I think is actually an interesting topic.
Okay.
Which is that, so you guys are beating us by about 50 episodes, I think, in terms of length at this point, but we've both been doing this for a while. I'm kind of curious, I realize this is going to be so vague, but what's it like having done a podcast for so long?
Oh, my dick is so huge.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even know. Like, I try to put on workout shorts, and I'm just popping boners on the basketball court. It's embarrassing. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's totally unrelated. So to do a podcast for so long...
Oh, you just wanted me to know that fact.
Yeah. I was going to work that in regardless. Give me more specific. What in terms of what?
Okay, so like I guess maybe how things have changed, how your attitude towards it has changed. Is it getting old? Do you still find yourself with the same amount of energy? Just that kind of stuff in general. Okay.
Yeah, pretty loaded question. So I cannot, first of all, disclaimer, I cannot speak for my co-hosts. Whatever their opinions are or however they view the show.
I'm asking you, Andrew.
Right. I just don't want to possibly throw, any bad light on them or anything. I'm only speaking for my personal self. So the way that I view how I output stuff is it's just kind of this cavalcade of content ideas. So it's like, I want to do this video, so I'll do a video. Oh, I want to make this stream or stream this thing, I'll do that. Oh, hey, I want to do this dumb thing, I'll do it. And the podcast kind of just wedges itself in there. So the way that I view how I put stuff out on the internet is it's a queue. It's just, this is what's next. This is what's next. This is what's next. This is what's next. So the podcast just kind of comes up in that line where it's like, yep, okay, I got the podcast now. Okay, now it's scheduled for this. So it's kind of hard for me to give a definitive answer of like how it feels, because to me it's just what I do. I mean, I've been doing YouTube videos and internet content since college, which was fucking 10 years ago, because I'm a fucking mummy that came out of a crypt. And I only recently got the privilege of doing it full time and quote unquote making it in the last like 4 years. So around that time is when it shifted into like, okay, this is just what I do. This is just what I fill my life with. So to me, it's gotten to the point where if I don't do the podcast, if I don't do creation, if I'm not doing things to just kind of accomplish them and put them out, I literally don't know what to do with my time. On the days where I actively sit around and go, hey, I'm not going to work on anything, I'm just bored. I don't do anything. I will maybe force myself to play a game and then an hour in be like, fuck it, I'll make a video. Fuck it, I'll pick this thing and work on it. So the podcast is kind of like the growth of it and the audience base just kind of glazes over me. I never really ever stopped to think, oh, this is how many people will listen to this. Oh, I better not fuck this episode up because it's going to go to this many people. Blah, 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 blah. The only time that ever comes into play for me is like when I'm told we have another sponsor, and I'm just like, okay, great. It means, people want to sponsor the show. But it does. I don't ever think about this kind of stuff. I just do the show because it's fun, and coincidentally, it helps pay my bills. So I just kind of do it. Just let it happen. I don't really put any pressure on it.
Okay, I think that's actually a really healthy way of looking at it, though.
Apologies, I'm back. My internet died for the first time in like 3 months, so that was weird. But hello.
Yeah, and kudos, as someone who just missed that entire answer to that question, what do you think of his response?
So here's the problem.
Kudos.
Here's the problem I have with Andrew, all right?
Okay.
I agree.
No.
But could you like elaborate on that though? Because there was definitely
for super rude people who out there aren't listening, not mentioning any names inside the studio.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the studio that we're all in right now that Lars rents out in Studio City.
Yeah, for any people who may or may not be foreign. Not saying that's part of the problem, but just saying they are foreign. So I guess it all ties into the attitude that we started the show for fun. So when the show very first started, I was doing a software job. I was a graduate boy, and I was literally a fucking code monkey. I was a programmer. So the show only ever cropped up because, hey, fuck it, a podcast could be fun. Let's do it. We have this funny group of friends. Why not? And then it took off in the audience, and then that led to, we can get sponsorships on it. And, oh, God, look, I can pay my rent now, and I don't need to be a programmer anymore. Hooray! So
I think you guys kind of lucked out with that, though, because honestly, a group of friends thinking they're funny and starting a podcast is like usually a bad idea.
Right. To be fair, I'm hilarious, but
yeah, you do. Yeah. Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because like when I joined on, Lars said that like obviously this podcast was started just for money mostly. Like money was first and foremost the only reason Lars wanted to do this, which explains why we obviously don't get paid. He keeps all the money for himself.
I don't.
But yeah, going forwards, it's sort of like how much money can we make and how easily can we like rip off fans and stuff. That's definitely kind of been like the driving force.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of, would you like to plug the Patreon, Lars?
I'll do it.
Oh yeah, go ahead and plug.
Give me the
Patreon,
link.
Andrew.
Give me the link.
Okay.
What's the link? I don't know the link.
All right, I'm gonna put it in the chat.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know why Andrew's doing this, but he's gonna do it.
All right, no, I'll go ahead. I got it. So if you out there are listening and you've already signed up for patreon.com/theofficialpodcast, which you have because it's the greatest podcast on the internet, you might think, I want to support a different show. I'm a fucking laborer at a construction site and too many bricks have fallen on my head. And for some reason, I have the idea in my brain that another podcast deserves my hard-earned money. So if you want to support a inferior show that also lets other men talk on the internet, you can go to patreon.com/T1podcast, which is a podcast that has many, many funny good guests. They've got Huggbees. They've got
Huggbees.
That's patreon.com/Huggbees.
And if you are worried, it is exclusively a men's only podcast. We were scheduled to have our first female guest the other week, and Lars was conspicuously absent.
Yeah.
See, half the reason I do this is because some people at home won't know I'm joking, and they're going to get real mad, and that's what I want.
I appreciate that.
I do think that whole... I know that we've mentioned this so many times on the episode, but I think it's so funny, the concept of like a group of white men is called a podcast. It's like, it's something, something about it is like, we're contractually obligated to start one at some point.
It grows like a cancer on all white men. It just happens.
That's another reason we kind of lucked out. We started our show before the podcast trend. We really got in like right at the very beginning of that hill of everyone starting podcasts. Now we definitely were not even remotely the first like YouTuber podcast. Like Painkiller was already huge.
Well, obviously we were because the first podcast.
Yeah. The first podcast was still roaring strong, easily one of the pillars of the format.
Godfathers of the medium.
While we weren't the first, we were one of the first that kind of came in at the beginning of that wave. So I think just the combination of the four of us being charismatic, at least I hope, plus just the timing in which we got in, I think in a way we definitely lucked out. There's the notation of it's a quality, fun show, but there's also, hey, we picked the right time to do it. We got in on the trend. Never left.
And she had critical.
Yeah, well, I will not ever deny that. Charlie's audience definitely a big what's the term? Base? good starting point, you know?
So here's a question for you.
Yeah.
And I realize it might be difficult to come up with an answer to this, but let's say that either Charlie didn't exist or Charlie had no fame.
Okay.
Do you think you guys would have gone big?
I think that while we would have probably not reached the level we're at, I do think we would have found an audience.
Okay.
And part of that is because, first of all, again, I do think that the four of us have a good show and good chemistry. And it's what I mentioned earlier, where I think his audience is a good base. I mean, not to toot my own giant horn that I mentioned earlier doesn't fit in my basketball shorts, but I too have an audience. So even though it is definitely exponentially smaller, it would have brought in some people. So if hypothetically, even if we're living in this fantasy world where all four of us just out of nowhere started a podcast, we were all nobodies. We didn't bring in anybody.
Burst into the ether. Yeah.
Exactly. All of us just came in from the fucking spirit realm. I think that while we probably would not have been as big, especially statistically, if, most people who get this big doing podcasts are already massive, but I think we would have found an audience, a comfortable just thing to do it. Now, if we would have kept going, who knows, because I definitely think that we keep part of the show going because it is successful and we like having a big platform to talk about stuff. So maybe we could have lost morale if we found out, we're only talking to 10 people a week.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's kind of impossible to answer those questions because this is just how it is.
Well, and that's what I said in the beginning. I'm like, it might be difficult to answer this.
I have a lot of respect for...
And I'm really thankful, by the way, for our 11 fans. I mean, you guys are really...
Whoa, big babies!
Jokes aside, I want to mention something, because you mentioned you have an audience, and obviously from that, people can infer you have a channel.
Yes.
I just want to say, man, okay, so in the past, I liked the How It's Made stuff.
Uh-huh.
I am subscribed. I caught one once in a while. It's very subtle humor, which I do like, but it's not something I want to consume all the time.
Right.
But once you kind of switched it up to doing whatever the fuck you want in front of a green screen, like I that was like an exponential switch in my brain. Now I watch every single video. I think it's really good stuff.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about
what made you want to do that?
My favorite side note while we're talking about the How It's Made, my favorite thing is how I just consistently get bean boozled into watching them.
Yeah,
which I know I'm assuming is definitely your whole, because obviously the title's so similar to the actual one, and there's tons of times where me and my girlfriend are just like watching them, and then like one of yours, or even they'll autoplay onto it, and you start some of them so dry that you're like, oh yeah, this is it. But then you're like, it's really funny. So you're like, well, I guess we're watching this one now. It's a.
Oh, can we not make the podcast mistake of not explaining what we're talking about? By the way,
no, let's not. Let's just move on.
Let's just let everyone assume.
If you're at home, figure it out.
Yeah.
Can you actually explain how it's actually made?
If you want to preface it, I'll answer that question.
Yeah. All right.
I want to hear someone else talk about how they describe my work. This is good. This is good for everybody.
Oh, am I doing? Okay. So there was a TV show called How It's Made, which is very good. It was How Things Were Made. Is it still going? I actually don't know if it's still going.
It is. Yeah. And they've ramped production up real good. They have like 4K footage now, and I've watched the newest seasons to keep up with what I'm doing, and it's gotten really impressive.
It's a really good show. It's just like very simple, very just like nice footage of factories and how things are produced. It's fascinating. It's kind of like, goddamn, how does some of the things you see where they're like got this big expensive machinery and then they make absolute dog shit products you can't imagine anyone buying. And you're like, that's like $100,000 worth of machinery there. How the hell did anyway?
And it's making like fucking Pop-Tarts.
Yeah. But I mean, even Pop-Tarts is like something. Like I'm talking about like the ones where it's like the bacon one, which is obviously one of your bigger videos.
Oh,
the original one of that is like, isn't it like microwaved? So it's just like disgusting. It's not the microwave you get at Subway where it's the bacon you get at Subway where it's just like weird plastic pre-cooked bacon. It's like that.
I think it is I think a lot of it is, I don't remember what the original script in that one is, but I think they say like half of it goes to be pre-cooked and the other half is not. I don't remember. Anyway,
really weird products, but just a lot of it. Very good show anyway. And Andrew here is a little cheeky bastard, and he does an ingenious parody that every time I watch him, I'm like, God damn it, what did I think of this? where he
Well, because like I said, it's really subtle. Like it's so yeah. That's the thing. It's really subtle. It's like exactly my kind of humor. Like very very dry, very like absurdist. But he does it redubs it so that because normally there's just like this nice British person being like, and then the bacon is taken to the cutting department where
you're definitely not from America. Here in America, we have Brooks Moore, and he's got like a radio DJ host. He's like, the vending machines are made to be clean. It's like he's got like a really soothing voice.
I found it's 50-50 depending on, because I just watch clips on YouTube, to be honest. I don't watch like the actual show. Which is why I've stumbled on yours so many times. But yeah,
so when they first started it, in Britain, they've got a totally different narrator, and he's got a terrible voice. He's like, Gobstoppers are delicious candies, and you can like he's really annoying.
Good impression. But there's also a woman who does it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to bring up. In the earlier seasons, before they got Brooks Moore, who still does it today, they had this woman from like the Midwest. She'll be talking about like golf balls, and she's like,
golf balls are made out of soft white material, and there are lots of great fun to be had with golf balls.
She sounds like a fucking mom from a 90s cartoon. It's awful. She's the worst.
My favorite is how like in every food one, they always have almost the exact same joke where it's like, it takes just 10 minutes to create 10 rashers of bacon, but you'll gobble them up in just seconds. It's like that exact same bit.
Yeah, they always end the episode with like, oh, bad time to start a diet, huh? Like,
it's so dry, but I love it. It's so bad. Anyway, so Huggbees redubs that, just making it into like an absurdist like nightmare of a factory, and it's so
That's
fun.
The best compliment I've ever been paid.
So, I think it works so well because it's like so subtle at times that you're not. Like, if someone was watching it from the outside, they wouldn't necessarily be sure, at least for a while, if it was legitimate or not.
That's intentional. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, obviously.
Sometimes I've gotten a minute in before realizing, like, some of them you get straight into like the crazy stuff. But there's definitely some where like it's such a build up where you get a minute in, you're like, this seems kind of real still.
Right. There's also I know this is like one big Andrew dick sucking fest.
No, please do not stop.
But I think one of my favorite gags that you ever did, it's have you ever watched MXC?
I did that. Are you talking about Wipeout?
Well, they're kind of, I mean, MXC, I'm talking about specifically because it's a show where like they
most extreme
the
elimination challenge, right?
Yeah, and sometimes they use like they take advantage of the visuals to make like a gag out of it. And
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, okay. So on one episode, I think it was the rice one.
Mm-hmm.
There was a point where there was a bucket of rice, and it had the label "front" on it, and you made a gag out of that by saying,
"This rice being processed today is called front rice,"
and I was just like, that was just so goofy.
I thought you were going to reference. I made a video on the show Wipeout. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It was yeah. So for those who at home, maybe those who live in a country that's upside down, Wipeout is this big game show. I think it's done now, but it used to be like on fucking Britain TV and American TV. It caught on everywhere.
Yeah, it was huge. It was down under as well. I can tell you that much.
Ah, right. It was the Western version of MXC, which was a redub of a Japanese game show called Takeshi's Castle. But basically, obstacle course. People try to run it. It's intentionally difficult and almost impossible to pass. And the whole point is that people get bounced around and hurt and hit by obstacles. I thought you were going to bring up how I dubbed Wipeout. And when I did that video, I intentionally did it in the style of MXC, where I gave every contestant a stupid backstory and a dumb name and just made up like really dumb shit for all of them.
I kind of wish that I realized that they eventually would run out of source material, but I wish there was just like one new episode of MXC. It's one of the shows that I miss the most.
I agree.
Such a genius premise for a show as well.
Yeah.
So to get back to your real roundabout question, Lars, do you remember if I talked about the origins of why I did How It's Made parodies on the previous episode of this podcast?
I listened to most of it today. I don't think so.
Okay, because I didn't want to recap anything I already talked about on the previous show. So it goes in hand with your question and also kind of explains the whole thing on it. But I always just kind of do content that I think is funny.
Yeah.
And to me, when I make content, my first and foremost thought is, if this was on the internet, would I laugh at it?
Yeah.
Now, I've probably got some learning disabilities or something, but I'm extremely like picky when it comes to comedy. Most things just don't make me laugh. And it's not even like that. You know, a lot of people today are hipsters. They're like, oh, this comedy movie's awful. This comedy movie's awful. Oh, this thing's awful. Like, oh, Adam Sandler, not funny. It's like, yeah, I go along with that. But then the stuff they do laugh at is like, I don't know, people on YouTube making little skits or like meme videos or like 10-second TikToks. And to me, most of it's just not funny because it's predictable. Yeah. You know, it's, to me, comedy without surprise is not comedy. So if you're someone like me who writes comedy and makes comedic stuff and literally makes being funny a living, you see most of this shit coming. Most of this stuff is not going to make you laugh because you see the punchlines coming a mile away. And it's like, okay, I knew this was happening. Okay, I knew it was going. And I think it's even exponentiated and made worse by how the internet now kind of takes the approach of humor of one long, awkward joke rather than writing multiple ones. So you'll have entire videos that are 10 minutes long and they'll be titled, "When Your Dad Finds Out You Ate His Oreos." And it'll just be 7 minutes of them going, "Hey man, did you eat my Oreos?" No, I didn't. "I saw you eat my Oreos. Why'd you do it? Why'd you do it?" And that's the whole video. And it's like, this fucking sucks. So when I make content, I try to be, I don't know, I try a lot of different stuff. I try things. Wait,
just to clarify though, how is that? I'm confused by your description. How is that? It just sounds like they're just describing a situation. Like, not only is that not funny, but how is that categorically comedy?
Exactly, but that's what most people say is hilarious.
It's people who like Family Guy cutaways, so they just make it their whole thing.
It's the people who think The Office is the funniest show ever written, but what they don't understand is The Office's comedy comes from the interaction of the characters. Yeah. So what they do is they find these skits that are just like, oh, look, awkward scenario, haha, and they just stretch that. And, you know, they want you to laugh because you're uncomfortable or because something is like, whoa, that's ridiculous. But when you're someone like me where like absurdist comedy is all you consume, I don't know, a mundane, slightly wacky situation just does nothing for me.
I felt like you and me have the exact same sense of comedy, which for me was personally ruined by just 2000s Flash animations. I think that's where like 90%.
That's exactly where I grew up, and that's where I pulled a lot of it. Yes.
Yeah. So I felt like yeah. So you get.
Well, I was just going to comment on that. My three biggest comedic influences have always been 2000s Flash cartoons, Japanese game shows, and The Onion and its related media.
Oh, yeah.
So, like,
The Onion and
like the airplane movies, The Naked Gun, Clickhole, Kung Pao, like any absurdist media alongside Flash cartoons and Japanese game shows are literally like the three things that shaped my humor growing up. I just found them to be the funniest shit.
I agree entirely. Yeah, I often find that as well. Like it's no way to say this without sounding like a real hipster, but it's difficult to have things that really genuinely make me burst out in laughter.
Exactly.
But it's always, like you said, it's always the surprise things, or like just you watch a video and there's just a really loud sound effect that's like crunch to hell or something that just comes out of nowhere.
Oh God.
That'll always get me.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know. But yeah.
It's got to be, so that YouTube poops are a great example. Throughout college, I watched nothing but YouTube poops, and when they're done well, they are the funniest fucking thing on the planet.
Oh, do you remember when montage parodies were first a thing, and they were like before it was a super overplayed joke that wasn't funny anymore? Like,
and they actually tried and put effort into it? Yeah.
Oh my God, that was the funny, because it was just chaos. It was absolute overblowing chaos with like a million hit markers everywhere and explosions and Mountain Dew and like
and they knew that it was stupid.
Yeah, it was so stupid, but it was hilarious. And now I've never seen something fall off quicker than montage parodies. It was like the funniest thing ever, and then it just fucking died. It was crazy.
Yeah. So to kind of go to my point where I'm bringing all this, I was struggling to make it on the internet for a long while. This was when I was still working software. I think the podcast had like just started or hadn't started yet. I don't remember which came first. And what I would do is I would do the streams, I would do YouTube videos, and I was just kind of like, fuck, I want to make it on YouTube. I want to make a big channel. I want that to be where my career is. I don't want to do software anymore. This sucks. So I just cranked stuff out. And the whole point is I kept trying to find something that would work. It was like, oh, maybe I'll do this kind of video. Maybe I'll make a funny montage. Maybe I'll do a parody of this, that, blah, blah, blah. So I would have this list on my phone, and I still have it today. It's not as extensive, though, because I've kind of figured out what I'm doing. But it would just be hundreds of lines of just funny video ideas. it would just be something I thought of, and I'd go, okay, I'll make this video, and I'd write it down. It could be like a single joke. It could be a whole concept that I thought was funny. It could be something I wanted to parody, et cetera, et cetera. So I was at a farm on a camping trip with like 5 of my friends, and we were just hanging out in the farmhouse one day, and it had cable TV, and I walked in, and they were all watching How It's Made, and I distinctly remember it was the rocking chairs episode. And I was like, oh, fuck, How It's Made is so good. And they were like, yeah, How It's Made is so good. And we watched the whole episode. And I went, okay, how about I make fun of How It's Made? I just like do a parody of it. I could easily just rewrite what he's saying, do an impersonation of the narrator, and just fucking make jokes. So I put it in my phone. I forgot all about it. I just did other videos, did other stuff. To me, it was just like, fuck it. Then one day, I was kind of going through my phone. I was like, all right, let's do the How It's Made parody. Fuck it. So I search How It's Made on YouTube, and I look at the popular ones, and I go, chocolate. Okay, chocolate's easy. So I do the How It's Made chocolate, and I try to do, like, what I've noticed. I originally, when I was a kid, thought I could be an impressionist. I thought that, like, it was a good idea because I was a fucking idiot who was in 5th grade. So one skill that I actually think I got that a lot of people don't get is that 90% of an impression is the inflection rather than sounding like them. So I watched like back to back How It's Made, and I went, all right, Brooks Moore, the guy that everyone knows, how does he speak? How does he talk? How does he enunciate his words? So eventually I just kind of learned that he has like this strong start and then falls off with every sentence. So he'll be like, chewing gum is made from all sorts of materials. And it's like he punches you, and then he's soothing, and then he drops off. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do the whole video in this impersonation and just write these like Onion-style jokes, because I was very influenced by, absurdist comedy and The Onion and stuff, and we'll just put it out there. And I put out chocolate, and I went about my day. And then a few months later, as I'm still cranking out random shit, chocolate's at like 500,000 views. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Jesus fuck. So I checked the comments, and people are like, oh my God, I thought this was real. Wait, is this not real? Holy shit, I can't believe this is how they make chocolate. And I'm just thinking, are people this fucking stupid? I thought it was obviously a joke.
You literally have a part where they say that you play nighttime stories or you read nighttime stories to the cocoa beans so the shells will fall out. Like, how does anyone...
The second fucking line of that video is they're given to a cage of starving refugees to lick the beans to clean them. It's the second thing I say in that video, and it's the first one I ever made. And I was like, this is so obviously a joke. The very first line is the same. It's like cocoa comes from cocoa powder or something. I say the same thing, but the fucking very first thing I say is a joke. And I'm like, people can't be this dumb. But lo and behold, half the comments are, I thought this was real. Oh my God, do they use refugees? That's fucked up. This is slave labor. Blah, 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 blah. So I make the second one, which is skateboards. Not the most popular one, but part of me was like, I don't want to just do food again. I wanted to mix it up. Then the third one is bacon. And bacon is currently my biggest video ever. It's at like 7 million views almost, I think. Because when I went into bacon, I had more of a goal and a mission. And I went, I want these videos to skirt the line and like upset people who don't know they're fake. So I want to make a product that it comes all back to these ideas I've had where I experiment with stuff. I like my productions to be half. Basically, if you're in on the joke, it's funny and hilarious and you get it. And if you're not in on the joke, it is making fun of you for being too stupid to get it. I love comedy that does that. I recently put out a video. It's not doing great, and I don't even care. I'm so proud of it. I played Half-Life Alyx, the new Half-Life VR game, the entire way through, flipping off the entire game.
Oh, yeah, you did that for like 37 minutes straight,
and it was literally like 10 hours of footage to get it.
Yeah.
Playing the entire game that way. And to me, that's the funniest shit, because to me, if you walk up to someone and go, hey man, did you know that he played through the whole game flipping off every character the entire time? The fact that I actually did it, and it's not just a funny concept, it's great. It's fucking, I'm glad that I did it. And just the fact it's there is content enough for me. Because it pisses off people who wanted to actually see me play Alyx. It pisses off people who thought I was going to do something better. It's just, nope, this. I'm just being a fucking idiot.
And just pulling the finger at people is just really funny. It's
yeah, and then to the people who get what I'm doing and get that I just love dumb concepts, it's like, that's fucking hilarious that he's just literally playing hours of this game just flipping everybody off. So when I went to the bacon, I was like, okay, bacon's going to be easy material to piss people off. And I kind of thought, well, here's what we should do. We should skirt the line and keep it kind of tame, but dip it enough that, you know, people won't know if it's a joke or not. So half the people were laughing at, and the other people were laughing with, because it's what Kudos was saying. It's that, you know, appreciation for wit and dry humor and sarcasm. And I don't think internet humor does that enough. I think we've kind of strayed away from people trying to actually write things, and it's more just trying to capitalize on like trends or, you know, things that are even loud, or memes, or just, you know, with the fact that content's gotten diluted down to 10-second videos, it's literally one funny concept drilled into your face. And I don't really go for that. It's why I'm never going to make a TikTok or do any of that shit. I prefer, you know, taking a funny concept and executing it. So with the bacon episode, I went, okay, the first joke I'm going to make is that it's made from dogs.
Bacon is now processed and even pre-cooked in factories. It all starts with a load of skinned dog carcasses.
That's just going to piss off so many fucking people who don't get it. And bacon is the biggest video I've ever made, and it blew up like crazy. It got like millions of views quickly, and I was like, okay, I think I know what I'm good at. I think after years and years and years of trying to make it doing internet content, I think I know what I'm good at. And it's like making this onion clickhole, you know, absurdist style content where if you don't know that it's fake, it could trick you. It's built in reality, but the jokes are laden with like wit and sarcasm and dry humor, and that's my skill. So then I start cranking out parodies of other shows. We've got Unwrapped, we've got all those reality shows on like TLC and like HGTV and shit. We've got all these other shows to make fun of, Wipeout, game shows, etc.
By the way, I'm going to rudely interrupt you, and I'm going to say, I want to bring up speaking of clickhole, I want to bring up my favorite article they've ever done.
Sure.
And I think you're going to find it funny too.
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to put it in the chat. It's called 5 Secret McDonald's Menu Items You Have to Order.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one is a Big Mac balled up. The second one is a McChicken balled up.
Oh, this is great.
The third one is a premium bacon ranch salad balled up. The fourth one is a Happy Meal balled up.
Which includes the toy.
Yeah. The last one is just the entire secret menu balled up.
That's so good. So my go-to example for clickhole when people ask what my sense of humor is, they did one of those articles where they interview people on the street on their opinion on news stories.
Oh, those are good.
And the news story was like, the NRA is getting new sanctions to take away their weapons, but they're saying that they're going to fight these laws. What do you think? And the first person's response was, well, we better to listen to them. They have guns.
Yeah. I love how The Onion uses the same, like, really unflattering photos of people on the street, like, forever.
And they always give them different titles, and all the titles are really funny as well. It'll be like mayonnaise sniffer or something. And it's like just
I know.
It's so good.
So to wrap this whole fucking self-dick sucking fest up so we can get back to you guys doing it for me.
Whoa!
The only problem I noticed with all of this, you know, I'm good at it and it's working and people like watching it, is I felt a bit pigeonholed. There was a time, for a long time, I was like, fuck, I'm going to do How It's Made forever. I'm going to ride this fucking gravy train. There's all these shows I can do. Look at this documentary, look at this and that. But I was kind of like, fuck, this is kind of railroading me a bit, where it's kind of the only content people are going to like. So eventually I said, I want to talk about things that I know that don't have videos associated to them. Because like I love learning shit and reading little factoids. I don't really watch a lot of content these days. When I have free time, I watch fucking documentaries and like educational shows. And literally, if you look at my Netflix queue, like 90% of what they recommend me is like the history of this or the story of this, because I just love learning shit. It's also part of why I started doing How It's Made and all these educational shows. So I bought like a camera and lights and all this stuff, and I went, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to try to find a format where I can talk about anything but still kind of have it be this sarcastic, dumb thing, whatever. And that's how the green screen rants have started, where it was like, okay, I remember back in the 50s, Superman used to be clickbait, and the comic book covers would be like outlandish bullshit just for people to buy them. And that's an interesting factoid that a lot of people don't know. But there's no documentary on that. There's no TV special talking about it. What the fuck do I do? So the green screen was kind of me thinking about it real hard and going, what's a visually interesting way I can present this information? And now I've done it about like Spider-Man comic books, about like a punk rocker whose entire act was shitting on the stage and eating it. I did
that's
like
Lars's thing as well, actually.
Oh yeah, that's how the show started, right?
Yeah, well, he just does it throughout, though. It's kind of weird.
Oh yeah, he's got to get a little snack. Got to get his calories up.
It doesn't really get brought up much. It's you'd think it would be like a like poignant part of the show, but
exactly
at this point, it's just kind of
now it's just kind of worrying.
Wait, I tuned out for a second because I was taking a drink. What was going on?
Taking a drink.
I actually did. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Don't worry about it. So
you'll see in editing.
So anyway, just to give a little bow on all of that, I wanted to talk about more things and not be limited to what had already had footage, like specials and documentaries and educational shows. So the green screen videos came about is in like, I have something I want to talk about. What's a visually interesting way I can do it, rather than just kind of having still images on the screen the whole time. And that's where we're at.
So in other words, for anyone in the audience who's listening, who's thinking, gosh, Huggbees does the exact same fucking thing with all these how it's actually made videos. The good news for you, he's moved to greener pastures.
Greener screens as well. He's
literally
he's multifaceted in many ways.
Oh.
And he has a lot of holes.
Okay.
Ooh.
I want to bring something up. It's going to be a version of the hypothetical question we asked everyone on the Ross Scott episode.
Okay.
Sure.
From a Curse
And I'd like to ask Huggbees more questions.
I'd like to ask him questions too, like how he's so handsome. Go ahead.
Okay. So, Huggbees, how are you so handsome?
I was not prepared for this.
You literally just gave that as an example.
I plead the fifth.
Yeah, someone in the chat just says, what the fuck, I didn't know you had Ross on. Yeah, that episode's not out yet, but it'll be out, I think, next week. And the question was, how far back in the future would you go and still feel comfortable? And I think a version of that question is also interesting, which is, how far back would you want a vacation?
Now, am I still me, or am I going back, like, in my own time? Like, if I go back 10 years, do I de-age 10 years?
The timeline is consistent so that you go back, like, now, so that, like, if you go back to the 90s, it'll be you right now, just blinked into the 90s. As an example. And this is for you too, Kudos.
Okay.
I believe I already answered this, though.
No, answer it again, Kudos. I want to hear it.
No. The difference this time is you're just going to vacation there for a little while, not live there.
Okay. Medieval times. I've always thought medieval times seem cool. Just all of it.
It's going to make the lamest joke ever, but never mind.
No, make the lamest joke ever, Lars. I've been talking for an hour.
Do you mean medieval times, the restaurant? Wait, you guys don't even have that. Never mind. It doesn't work.
Well, he doesn't because he's fucking.
He doesn't. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, I know it was a restaurant. But I figured Lars would have been better than that. I don't know. I also just don't know what like time medieval times was. Was that like 800 AD? That.
Well, you got to keep in mind, Kudos, that
it's a very
obviously
wide range.
A lot of movies and books and TV shows kind of romanticize that era.
I know. That's why
it was fucking horrendous.
That's why I want to go. Like, I want to see what it's actually like. I'm not going there because I want to be like a knight in shining armor. I want to go see, like, walk through a town and be like, this is fucking awful.
So I'm glad you brought out the going back in time question, because I'm a real like fucking stick in the mud about this question. Because what most people don't realize is that the past was fucking awful, no matter how far back you go. It was legitimately a nightmare that no human should ever experience.
Yeah.
Well, let me throw an egg on top then. Okay, so let's say that no matter what happens, if you get sick or die, it'll just rewind and never happen. Like, you can safely vacation.
But so there's like way too many things that people don't think about going to the past. So let's take Kudos, a man of a great brashness, but maybe a small head, in his answer about going back to medieval times.
Heads of medium size.
Brain capacity then. So Kudos is going to walk up to like the villagers of the medieval times, and he's going to go, "Oh, wow, medieval villagers. Hello, everyone. Can you share with me your life?"
That is the worst New Zealand accent I've ever heard. Wow.
Fuck, I'm sorry. So let's pretend that Kudos has freedom in this scenario. So he's an American.
Okay.
So Kudos, because I'm too lazy to try a New Zealand accent. Let's say he goes back in the medieval era and he walks up to the villagers and he goes, medieval villagers. Could I please have a tour of how you do things? And Kudos in his brain, in a lot of people's brains, the villagers are going to go, welcome ye to my town. Good to see you. You know what the villagers are actually going to do? They're going to go, Flim Darvin Hubigan. Oh, stiff. They didn't speak the English we do.
Now, that was a good New Zealand impression.
Here's the thing. They speak, was it Old English or Middle English? That's the thing.
Then.
I don't want to understand.
It's not even,
I just want to see. I want to walk amongst them. And again, I don't want to live there.
But
I'm just saying.
That leads to the next problem. So most people don't realize that, like, they're not even going to speak the same fucking language because Old English is so different than current English. But number two, what are they going to do for you? You're going to walk up and you're going to go, hey, guys, I'm here to observe. And then the farmer's going to go, okay, going to bale the hay. And then the fucking butcher's going to go, I'm going to cut my meat.
Yeah.
It's boring. What the fuck is the point?
Andrew, you're being a huge dork about this.
Exactly.
The point of the question, it's supposed to be like a Doctor Who style vacation. It's not supposed to be like...
But we need to be realistic.
But here's the thing.
I love movie.
I love medieval things.
This sounds like an argument Maddox would make, dude.
It's not a kid's show where we go back to Cleopatra's pyramid and she goes, hello, I am Cleopatra. Welcome to my pyramid.
I just want to walk around a town and just see, just observe it, because I've been to castles.
Then go to the Renaissance fair, because you can do the same thing but speak to someone who speaks your language and gives you funnel cakes.
We don't have those in New Zealand. We were founded 200 years ago.
Well, that's your fault.
But I have been to castles in England and it's fucking cool. The ones that are tourist attractions. And I'm just man, I wish I could see this in its prime. What was it all like? That's what I mean. I just like to, just for a day, just walk around and be like, oh, okay, interesting. And then fucking come back and never think about it again.
The thing is, if you're researching, I totally get wanting to go to the past. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
If you're going back and you want to write the stuff down and enhance your knowledge, great.
Yeah, that's why I want to go. I don't think the food's gonna suck. It's not like if the weather's gonna be shitty. It's not gonna be a good time, but just out of curiosity to flex my historical brain, I'd like to do that.
So to go for vacation though, like Lars was asking, I wouldn't. It seems terrible. I can give two answers to this question. The first is I would go back to any historically significant period of time. It doesn't matter. The conquest by the Mongolians, the fucking Renaissance, the Dark Ages, whatever. I'd go for an hour just to see what it was like and come back. Or I'd go back an hour in time right now to before I did this podcast, and I'd warn Lars that this question is for dummies.
I could have done that, to be fair.
So with all of your stupid stipulations aside, what would you want to just go see for fun? It's not that, try not to overthink it. It's literally just to get someone talking and get an insight into their, I would want to go back and look at dinosaurs, for example.
That's a really good answer.
Yeah. What's wrong with that? I know that, technically I'd get eaten, but,
have you considered that they'd eat you, Lars? Come on.
You'd probably
you haven't looked at all the possibilities.
You'd suffocate, wouldn't you?
I'm saying
the air back
this
then
is
different?
an invincible vacation. You'll be fine.
So treating this without considering consequences or problems, saying that it's all fine and I just want to look at a diorama of people.
You'd just be no clipping around.
Yeah, I'm just hanging out in the past. Okay. I'm watching it like a show. I would probably go... See, I always pick the future in these scenarios if they say if you could travel through time. I'd always go in the future. I would probably want to go to... I want to go to the 50s. And I want to see how the world plays out under rigid prosperity. This is Jimmy. You can tell that Jimmy's a handsome boy because of his clean haircut and his hatred of communism. I've always wanted to see how that culture played out in contrast to its media. Because today we have media that talks about everything. You have shows that are about how great life is. You have shows about how miserable it is. You have shows about personal blah, 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 blah. Back in the 50s, all media was squeaky clean. It was spick and span. Even the dramas and the hard stuff was only so much.
Yeah.
You only gave people so much conflict and so much drama and so much misery. Everything was kind of it had a limit. So I would love to go to the 50s and just look and be all hey, how does how does this compare? Are people actually buying this stuff? Do they kind of think it's for squares? Like, what's the deal? What do people think? How do they do it?
That is kind of interesting because I feel like a lot of, probably most eras have been romanticized on TV to some extent.
Right. I mean, nearly every, like fucking Mad Men is in the 60s, and it's like everyone's like, oh my God, the fucking 60s was the best for businessmen. You smoked and you drank and you fucking ate food that was delicious, and then you went home and fucked your wife, and I want to do that. It's like, do you not realize that like there was all sorts of fucking horrible cultural problems because of the Vietnam War and racism and like all this terrible shit happening?
I think
it wasn't great.
I think you can say racism is probably, regardless of time period, going to be an issue. Is asking what time period you would go to a racist question? Well, it depends where you go.
Yeah, where and when you go really matters. Let's be honest. If I'm Japanese, for example, there's a lot of time periods in America I don't want to go.
Yeah.
Well, no, we talked about this on the Ross Scott episode because Doplex brought up that he's Mexican.
Yeah, there's a lot of times he's not going to want to go.
But if it's anywhere in South America, probably fine.
Yeah.
But I'll say on that same note, like if us little fucking pasty white motherfuckers just were plonked, I don't know, somewhere in Africa at any point in history, they'd, not saying we'd get like killed or anything, but we'd definitely stick out.
Yeah.
And that might be an issue as well. But we definitely probably do have it better for most periods in history.
Yeah. See, I don't know. I love being a little fucking analyst about shit. I love overanalyzing stuff. So every time I hear the time, maybe because the time travel question's so common, it's always a common hypothetical. Like it's a fucking like Tinder first date question. So to me, I just like to sit on it and go, well, let's think about where I actually can go back in time.
Can't spell overanalyzation without anal.
I'm always interested in like if I could bring someone like forwards. Like I was talking to some friends about that the other day. Like if you could bring in like someone from 2,000 years ago from like Greece just to today, probably within a month they'd be using a smartphone and kind of caught up. I feel like I think humans are kind of consistent across all time periods. Like our brains are, unless you go back like millions of years.
Kudos. I actually hard disagree.
Ooh. Nah.
Okay.
I hard agree with myself. So figure that
got you there.
So we got two.
Lars, are you going to double dare or take the physical challenge?
We've got two hard agrees and one hard disagree. That's interesting.
I'm going to throw a huge wrench into this.
Okay.
Have you ever seen a boomer try to use any device at the cash register? Like, have you ever seen someone try to put their card in?
Okay. The smartphone was a joke. I just meant like if you brought like someone from ancient Greece, like we see them as just like these completely different people, but they still had like all the same, we're not evolved since then. They would still have the same love for their family and passion for people or like interests in this and that. Like obviously once the language barrier was ironed out, you'd have a lot of things you could like relate to and at a very base level.
I don't know. I feel like eventually they would.
The one thing related to that I've always wanted to do is I want to take someone from the past known for being a genius and see just if they're actually a moron.
See if they're good in bed.
Like imagine if we take Socrates back from the past and we're like, oh, brilliant philosopher Socrates, what do you think of all this? And he's like actually a fucking dumbass. Like all the stuff he was saying is just nonsense and we misinterpreted it.
Or just like whoever was writing it on his behalf was actually the genius.
Exactly. Like it's not what he said, it's like what his collective students put together. Like I would love to do that.
Guys, I mean also to be fair though, do you think maybe part of the advantage we have now is the thousands of years of collective knowledge and that maybe if they had that too, they would like be a little... Like, I feel like if you can't blame Socrates for not knowing the updates on, like, philosophy and medicine and stuff.
Look, I want to pull Socrates into the future so I can objectively claim I am smarter than Socrates, and no one can say I'm wrong.
All right.
Wouldn't you want to do that?
It'd be interesting to feed one of those dudes, like, the internet. Just be like, hey, you've got a big brain. Even just say, like, Einstein, someone recently that we could talk to. Or, someone who speaks German could speak to. Like, just be like, hey, you're a smart man. Here's the entire world's knowledge. Like, just to see, like, what would happen there,
Good old Encino man.
That's what I'd like to
No
do.
one?
Probably more than going back in time.
Does no one remember Encino Man with Brendan Fraser?
Unfortunately,
I was
going to
say, I know that that's a thing. I just didn't understand the
Brendan
reference.
Fraser is a caveman frozen in ice, and he thaws in the 1990s, and they have to introduce him to like everything. It's not a
Got
good
it.
movie. It's a fun movie, but it's not a good movie.
All right.
But does fun not imply good?
I think remember, you can have
Those
fun
are
with
different.
things that are bad. Yeah.
That's true.
For example, the Room. Like, everyone loves The Room, and it's a fun movie. Is it a good or well-made movie? No, not at all.
Very true. Very true.
I have a recommendation for that, by the way. You've probably seen it at this point, but Shark Exorcist.
I've been recommended that for weeks now, and it's on my
Yeah.
list, and I'm not there yet. Velocipaster and Shark Exorcist are the two that keep ringing in my head.
Yeah. Shark Exorcist actually makes The Room look like Citizen Kane.
Oh, wait.
in comparison.
Is Shark Exorcist the one where, like, it has the really creepy shots of the women in their underwear rolling around in the beach?
That's one of the scenes, yeah.
Yeah, where the director's, like, actually just a big secret pervert, and half the movie is just women in their bathing suits, like, rolling around in the sand and, like, flaunting their pussy and shit. Is that it?
That's a cousin of the actual movie in terms of a description, but, like, not quite. It's sort of, yeah, sort of.
Okay. I might
Yeah.
have seen it then, because I remember there was one, it was some, like, obviously bad movie, but a third of the movie was just, like, softcore porn, but in a creepy way, and I was just kind of like, this isn't that funny as much as this is just, like, kind of unnerving.
Like, there is a scene in the movie where it's clear that they have hired a porn star as the actor, because at one point she looks into the camera in a
And
sexy way.
sucks the director's cock.
Well, no, that's like she clearly forgot she was doing an actual movie and thought, like, slipped back into porn mode for a second.
Porn mode activated.
Little light
Yeah.
switch.
Yeah. So there's a big.
Oh, I have
big
a
red
kind of
switch on the
related
back.
question. I was looking to bring this up on another episode, but
Sure.
didn't get around to it. Well, it's not really a question. It's more kind of an observation, which is that I really wish that I could experience the technology that's going to come out in like 20 to 40 years, but now as a relatively young person, as opposed
Yeah.
to like as an older guy.
So we have a ton of sentiment for people our age. You know what, Lars, kudos, drop some ages right now. How old are you guys?
48.
I'm 64.
48?
No, I'm 27. Yeah.
Okay. Lars, how old are you?
Old enough.
Give me a number.
Okay. I'm 32.
Okay, great. I'm 29. So at least I'm not rotting away as fast as Lars is, but I'm 29. So when I'm saying this stuff, I know that I'm preaching to the right audience.
I'm the cutest one here.
There's a lot of sentiment about people our age where it's like,
Wait, someone said I'm 31 in the chat. I don't remember. I need to investigate this later.
Hold on.
no.
I need to investigate.
It's happening already.
You need to count the rings on your penis.
Yeah.
Well, it's like after like what 21, it's really just adding a number to it. Nothing really happens.
Oh, birthdays after about 21, 22 birthdays mean literally nothing.
Yeah.
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 So there's a lot of sentiment among people our age that I've noticed where it's like they hate our kids because like they're like, oh, these fucking little shits. They have so much stuff in their lives they're growing up with, and oh fuck, the internet they have now is so garbage compared to ours and this and that. It's like, yeah, I agree with a chunk of it, but at the same time, imagine growing up now with all this cool shit.
I know,
Yeah.
And when
man.
they're our age, it's only gonna fucking get cooler. Because what they have the advantage of having everything we had. When we were growing up with, say, video games. So you grow up, you're a little kid, you got the SNES and the whatever, and you're like, wow, this is great. And then you gotta wait for the fucking PlayStation 1 and the N64, and it's like, wow, this is great. And the GameCube comes out, and PS2 and the Xbox, blah, blah, blah. So we were seeing them all come out. If you're a kid born today, or say you're a 10-year-old kid right now, not only do you get to play what's coming out, but you can hop on your computer and emulate that GameCube and play whatever fucking GameCube games you want at any time. And the fact I can do it now is great, but I'm getting older. I'm running out of time. They have all the time in the world to experience this shit. It's the worst fucking feeling. Same with movies. Same with TV shows, with comic books, with anything. They can pick and choose from all the best parts of our era and add it to theirs.
Do you ever
I
think?
am so fucking jealous.
To be fair, we are like,
Thanks to the internet.
I know we think this, but God, imagine if you're someone who was like 60 or 70 and you're just getting into video games now and you're like, fuck.
I really missed out.
I really missed out. And then you're like, oh, because like in theory, assuming everything goes right with you, Lars, we should still all be alive in 30 or 40 years. So like we'll still be able to play like the PlayStation 10 and whatever insane games and things are like coming down the line. Imagine if you were someone who was like, fairly older at the end of their time on this earth, and you were like, I'm just not even going to get to see how I know it's like a very consumer like thought, but it's
it's such a fucking modern existential nightmare because it's only because of the internet. If you were born in the 50s and you were like, oh, my father loved this movie from the 20s, I'd love to see it. Oh, too bad they just don't play it in the theater anymore. Get fucked, idiot.
Yeah.
You will literally never see that movie. I hope to God in 50 years they digitally restore it, idiot.
Good luck.
But now, thanks to the internet, you have kids that are grown up in the modern internet their entire life. So anything they want, they can have it. We didn't have that growing up. We had to wait for a bunch of shit coming out, and there were certain things that are just gone. There are still certain relics from then that just don't exist. There are TV shows that weren't preserved before the modern internet. There's websites that are now just gone because they don't exist. There's content made for the internet. It's just gone. But now with the modern internet, pretty much anything is still there. So they have the greatest time to be alive. They have the greatest cultural advantage. They can get whatever the fuck they want. Imagine being a fucking 12-year-old right now, and you're just sitting around, you're plugging away, and you go, I want to try a new video game series. Oh, what's this? Oh, Final Fantasy 20, huh? Okay, I'll give it a go. And then you beat it, and it's the best game you've ever played. Guess what? You have 20 more to try, and they are all readily available on the internet in one form or another.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't grow up when 7 was new, you asshole, and the first ones were only in Japan. Ugh.
I kind of experienced this because my brother and sister are both that age. They're both like, in the 10 to 13 range. So like just seeing them and how because they've been using the internet since they were like 4. I don't know. My brother like learned the internet so he could like watch videos of like cars on YouTube or, whatever. So it's just fascinating seeing them grow up. And yeah, exactly like you say, they've just got this entire back catalog of things and like Netflix and things. Like man, I remember like watching TV shows on Nickelodeon or whatever, and if there's nothing good on, you just have to wait. I know that's still that's still TV today, but like no one fucking watches TV anymore.
Yeah.
You can just watch exactly what you want to watch on YouTube or Netflix or whatever. You don't have to wait for it. You don't have to check the TV guide to see what time it's playing. So there's no real waiting around, which is cool.
I know I'm old because I'm starting to despise the algorithm. Because like growing up, like I would constantly have a TV on in my house. I'd be on the computer or playing games or whatever, and my parents would be watching TV, or I'd have the TV on or whatever. And it was like you just found shit. You'd be watching sci-fi, and you'd look and you go, "What's this movie?" Oh, you'd flip through channels, and the shit would come on, and shit would just randomly pop on. There are so many cartoons or random TV shows that I am just now finding again because they've been re-preserved, that I once glanced at in a random Saturday Night Fever, just having the TV on in the background. But with them, the algorithm tells you what to watch. You don't just organically discover shit. You make your first initial picks, and then they cultivate what you like, and that's it. All you see revolves around that.
Do you get very pigeonholed?
There's no more slot machine.
Here's what I hope. This is, and I'm going to kind of explain to build up to what I mean here. There's going to come a point at some point in the future where VR gets really cool, like with like tactile feedback and really amazing graphics, probably like 20 to 40 years from now or so. And it's going to be an amazing experience that may, on some levels, be better than reality. And I just hope I don't die before that.
That's the worry you got to have with holodeck syndrome. It's got a fucking name, and like people talk about it, and I went down a rabbit hole on it for a while, but someone pointed out that I'm sure you guys have seen Star Trek and have, at least a rudimentary understanding of how they have like the teleporter and phasers and all this shit. So for the small people out there who have never actually watched Star Trek and don't know, it's a sci-fi adventuring show. And on it, they have
with
this
the poo from the Emoji Movie in it.
Yeah, he finally branched out after doing so much poo.
Well, Andrew, I think they're gonna know this because like it's a film franchise now, like a current one.
It is. That's right. I forgot. Jesus.
Okay.
But anyway, everyone in the world knows Star Trek, but some people out there might not know what the holodeck is. So I'm going to explain that. The holodeck is a room. It's mostly in the older Star Treks, but they bring it up sometimes in the newer ones or in like the movies. But the holodeck is a room on the spaceship that can perfectly simulate anything. You can walk into this big room and go, computer, put me as a cowboy in the 1700s, and you are in the middle of a Western action movie. You got the costume, you have the guns, you lasso, you know how to shoot and fucking do everything. You could go, computer, make me a gangster in the 1920s. Computer, simulate what... You could even do rudimentary shit. You could walk in and go, computer, simulate what would happen if I called Jennifer a bitch. And it will just create your friend Jennifer and have her act out what would happen if you called her a bitch. So someone brought this up, and there's like discussions about it on the internet, on like Star Trek fan fucking shit. And it's, if we invented the holodeck, why do we do anything else ever?
Yeah,
exactly.
Why? You can do anything. What's the point of doing anything else at all except hang out in the holodeck for all eternity?
Live out your like every fantasy you've ever had.
Every fantasy, anything. Fuck whoever you want. Conquer whatever country you want. Do whatever your imagination dictates. Make up stuff. You could tell the holodeck, I want to play a game that's like this, and it'll think of it for you.
Yeah.
It creates any world you want to be in. And I think actually the creators of the show came on record and said that's why they steered away from it in later seasons, because they it's a little, I guess it's OP in terms of fantasies. But really, like, why not just sit in the holodeck forever? And I hope that we, as a society in real life, reach some level of that, because I'm a believer in VR. I love it.
Yeah.
I use VR pretty regularly. I've got like 3 headsets. I think VR, while clunky, has huge fucking potential and can offer experiences you literally can't have anywhere else. I'm hoping
if we ever actually get to a point where there is a holodeck, by the way, you really need to make a sequel to that flipping off video.
I flip off every president.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: he doesn't need to do that. He can just simulate a reality where he's already made that video. Like he doesn't even need to record it.
I don't even have to make the video. I just simulate the video and have them upload it.
Simulate me with 10 million subscribers. All right, never mind. Don't have to make videos anymore.
Fuck it. Because that's the thing. The holodeck is always the end point. You sit down and you go, well, all right, what do I want to do with my life? I want to get 10 million subs on YouTube. Why? Because then I'll be super rich. Well, why? Then I'd like to buy a yacht. Holodeck, simulate me on a giant yacht. Boom, done.
Yeah,
Who gives a shit?
You've cut out all the in between. I often wonder, like, stuff with VR. I guess talking about those dang kids today. I'm sure growing up, you guys
routinely before we move
got
on
it.
From that, I don't want to.
Oh my god.
Like,
oh fuck,
Lars. Kudos was fucking talking.
Oh my god, I just got I had a conversation. It got speared through the heart. That's fine.
I'm really
you go,
sorry
Lars.
about the kudos. No. Lars does this from time to time after his diarrhea downing.
Okay.
Jesus, that's some imagery. Okay.
Is it though?
So, anyway,
here we go, Lars. What was super important? You had to interrupt me.
Yeah, Lars, go ahead. We're all listening.
Fuck me, right? Okay. So, maybe one of the conceits of the holodeck is that, I mean, I'm not exactly sure, but isn't it supposed to be like super realistic?
Yeah, it's basically a simulation of anything, as far as I know.
Well, okay, so I think being a little more conservative in terms of what I think we'll be able to achieve with VR, do you think it might be a situation where it looks cool and it is a simulation, but it's kind of not as cool as like real life? Like I don't know, if I could simulate anything, but it was PS3 graphics, like I might still value real life experiences at that point.
People already do that though. People already play video games that let them do things they can't do in real life that have graphics that are nowhere near like real life, and the people still get absorbed and sucked into it for.
Yeah.
So I don't.
What do you think about waifus, Lars?
Yeah, I don't think
for a while, but I don't think like most people.
Well, not most people. I still think it's definitely people who are like already lacking something in their life and use it to sort of substitute. And I think that's probably going to be the issue.
Sure.
But VR or the holodeck could be that on a grander scale.
Let our guest talk.
No, I didn't want to interrupt. I was just going to say, to me, I'd rather go the opposite end, man. I want to make life more exciting with it. It's like
Okay.
the potential isn't just limited to what you can experience, it's what you can be. Like go into the holodeck and go, computer, make me a giant Halo super soldier, or computer, make me a horrific mantis man. Or but you could be like, computer, make me fly. Like, computer, turn my skin green. Computer, make me 20 feet tall. It's like the simulation can also affect you. You can make yourself a woman and find out what it's like to masturbate as like a woman. That'd be fucking sweet.
Yeah.
I think that what I
Wait,
want
so it
in
hooks
life,
into your brain and stuff, and like, because that would be really hard to do.
well, that'd be the Matrix.
yeah.
But what we're doing in real life, I don't know if you saw that like news thing where they've made a sensor that reproduces tastes.
I did see that. Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a little sensor they made in sci-fi world in real life where it stimulates your taste buds and you can just taste whatever you want. So my hope, one of my big old endgame hopes in life, is that we find a way to jack these inputs into like our brain. Like we inject smells when required, we inject tastes, we inject sight, etc. And to me, it's the question of the Matrix. It's the philosophy brought up in the Matrix. It's like, is living in a perfect simulation a bad thing? Do we need to be in reality? If we can create a simulation that's literally indecipherable, does it matter if we stay in there the whole time? And personally,
yeah.
I believe it's not a problem.
I don't think this is a problem.
Yeah, I think if we have the technology and it's not detrimental and you can do it, fuck it. Let me live in my fantasy world until I die. Fuck yeah.
Sure.
let's
What's
do it.
what's the argument to the contrary?
I think the argument in the Matrix anyway is that I think humans are built to have some level of conflict. Like we need a struggle. Like, traditionally it was, I am going to die if I don't pick enough berries or hunt this thing. So you're like constantly fighting. These days, I feel like it manifests where people just, get maybe unnecessarily upset at random things because it's like
there's a lot of arguments on it. Like another one is that it's not real. You'll always have reality purists. For example, let's say you're making like music and you're like, hey, I got these guitar samples. I can make a guitar part for my song. And you'll always have people going, well, it's not a real guitar recording. It doesn't have the nuances and simplicities and the complexity of it. And I think the same thing can apply to the simulation. It's like, yeah, this is a perfect simulation, but it's not real.
Yeah.
It's like the fucking steak scene in The Matrix where he's like, I eat the steak. My brain tells me it's delicious. Every part of my synapses say this is exactly what I want, but in my heart, I know it's not a real steak, and I know I'm not getting full.
Yeah, they'd probably eat at you, I think, like in the back of your head, even if at first you're like, yeah, this is, I feel like there'd just be that small part that would be like, whatever.
It's like the fucking Squidward episode where he moves to the squid residence, and he's like, this is fantastic, and then it just turns into like a nightmare because it's the same shit.
The other thing is I think people don't really know what they really want. Like I think that's the other thing is it's
right.
If you were presented with that and you could just like click whatever you want into reality, it probably would still not quite satisfy like your base urges, I suppose. I want to bring up the topic I brought up before I got fucking T-boned before. Do you think,
Lars, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, do you have any extra things you want to bring up here?
Yeah, I kind of want to get into it. So, okay, so I feel like when it comes to sex, but
yeah, keep going.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like
he's
totally
struggling,
not rudely
struggling to
kudos.
think of a new topic to bring.
No. I was going to bring this up. You guys just
no. I want to hear kudos. I want to hear kudos.
Okay,
so like
he's been waiting patiently.
We're talking about those dang dirty kids today, and I do wonder, like, I'm sure.
All right, so I went ahead and survey-muted kudos. Okay, so the thing about sex is that I feel a little bit different when I feel like I wouldn't necessarily want to simulate it. Like I feel like I would probably prefer to have it in reality. I don't know. Like,
but that's the quandary, isn't it? Because if you had a little needle that went in your brain and perfectly stimulated every synapse in there that responds to when you have real sex, is there any real difference between it?
I don't know.
Like, let's say you're having fake simulated sex. Let's say for a fact the whole time you're conscious, you're like, this is the holodeck. This is not a real pussy. But let's say that for all synapse responses, all stimuli, your brain feels the sex, feels the sensations of it, the smells, the tastes, literally everything is the same. You just know it's fake. Is there really any difference?
I don't know the answer to that. I feel like I would have to try.
That's why the debate rages on.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess
To me, I'm okay with the simulation. If they perfected that, I'd be totally comfortable going, yep, this is a simulation, fine, whatever. But I know there's plenty of people out there that wouldn't. They would not take it. They would maybe visit there, but they would not live in the simulation. I would. I'd do it immediately.
Yeah.
I'm down for that.
Here's the question. If we got to a point where we had that, I feel bad for Kudos now.
I don't think Kudos is coming back, by the way.
Oh, wait, okay. So would you prefer, like, if they're like, oh, we're
Well,
coming
hang on
out
a
with a
minute. This
holodeck.
man has died and you're ignoring him. Did he leave the server?
No, I don't think. No, he didn't leave the server.
Where is he?
Oh, I think he just left.
Oh, get him in here. I missed that guy.
I just pinged him. Anyway, so
Yeah.
Here's the question: again, if holodeck was coming out, like Apple's like, oh, we have the iDeck or something. I don't know, tomorrow, and you had a choice where you could get hooked up, and you could choose whether you were going to know or not. Which would you choose?
Ooh, that's a good question. Am I starting my life over?
Well,
Or
basically,
am I plugging in right now as I am?
yeah, let's say that you wouldn't know. Like, it's not that you would start your entire life over. It's that you would not know that you got hooked up. Like, they would erase that part of the memory.
You know what? I would say I'd want to know for the sole purpose of it would keep me comparing. So if I was put into the simulation and I had no grounds for it, eventually it would get boring. Or maybe even if I access the synapse in my brain that's like, oh, it's a simulation, I could get paranoid. Or I feel like it would just kind of be a thrill that wore off. Whereas if I finally got into the simulation at like age, like 50, whenever this comes out, then I could go, oh man, look at my life now. This is perfect. Compared to what it used to be, this is great. It would keep me appreciative of the simulation. It would not let me take it for granted.
Okay. Kudos.
At least I think.
What's your answer?
We have a soundboard for Kudos here.
I wish.
Why is he not joining the call? What happened to this man?
I don't know. I think he's probably doing this for the gag because I did that for the gag.
Oh, wow.
So I had a question, but I just forgot it.
Hang on. I'll bring Kudos back in here.
Okay. By the way, really, just wanted to point out, this is just kind of a random memory, but I remember when you guys did that episode of the official podcast where you actually did have a soundboard for Charlie.
Yeah, that was a prank that Kaya pulled.
Yeah, that was great.
Because it was definitely one of the more creative ones, and it ties into the fact that the man is the least talkative on our show, so it just worked without even trying.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Kudos is back. Oh, Lars, shut up! Shut up, Lars! Kudos?
Sorry, I said to go to the bathroom.
All right. Okay.
I need to
that was a
clap.
good question,
We spoke to a
Kudos.
clap sync because I stopped recording as well.
Oh my
Are you recording
Lord.
again?
I am now. It was at like an hour 30, and I'm always afraid of losing that shit, so I just thought I'd save
Oh,
it.
that's fair. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay.
All right.
Good thing. So what was your answer to that question, Kudos?
Yeah, and also you had a question you've been sitting on for like 30 minutes.
No, it's fine. It's not that interesting. What was the question?
The question was, if Apple came out with the,
Oh,
let's
this
say
is
they
a
were
fucking
preparing to
awful
release.
question. All right, here's my question. So, do you think, like, with the way things are going forwards with, like, growing up, we're always hit with shit like, oh, you're spending too much time watching the bloody TV, you're going to have square eyes. Did you guys catch that as well from your parents?
Not Square Eyes specifically, but a little bit of,
Just that
it's
sentiment,
not
like,
good for you.
Yeah, you're on the computer all the time or that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
The question was, Kudos, would you want to know you were getting jacked into the holodeck or not?
Well, hold on, I was actually asking something. So, do you think that, like, going forwards...
This is a really professional show.
Do you think going forwards that, like, that... I always wondered what that's going to be for us, right? Because, you like to imagine you're young, you're hip, you're sexy, that like, oh, no, we're going to be open to everything. We're going to be cool. Like, oh, I remember how much I hated when my mum would tell me to get off the computer. So I'm not going to do that for my kids. But do you wonder, like, maybe with, like, the future of VR, if that will be that? Like, you'll just see your kids, like, sitting in the chair with this, like, headset on, just, like, with their neck craned back, just limp for hours on end, and you'd be like, this doesn't seem healthy.
If anything, I wouldn't be able to tell him that because I'd be stuck in VR too.
There you go. So I think the answer for this question is that actually a lot of people are going to kind of ultimately turn into a boomer about it. But
yeah,
I'm fortunate enough to have had a grandpa and still have a grandma who kind of embrace modern technology. And I've seen how their lives have been a lot better than other people in that age bracket. Like my grandma still texts me, and she's, I think, 85 at this point. And it's been really useful. So I'm probably going to try to keep that in mind. Like, oh, it helped my grandparents to stay up to date on technology. I probably should too.
yeah.
You know, a lot of boomer sentiment I've noticed in that bracket is straight up honest jealousy that the next generation has it easier than the previous one.
Which is weird because that's kind of like the eternal goal of humanity.
Exactly. And it seems like such a petty reason, but truthfully, there's a ton of parents and boomers where they're only yelling at their kids not to play so many video games because they're going, oh, I wish I got to play video games growing up.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish, that I got to do this easy stuff when I had it. I wish that blah, 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 blah.
I guess like maybe on a more positive like note, they could also be, I mean, everyone assumes they turned out all right, for the most part, unless you really know you've got something wrong with you. And I suppose you assume, well, here's the sequence of events that led to me being okay. So therefore that's what I should give my kids. So it's like, oh, I spent a lot of time like playing in the woods out the back of our house when I was younger, when I was like 10 years old, and that was good for me. So therefore that must be good for my kid too. So it's probably a bit of a mixture of both, like some jealousy, but also like, well, I'm just going with what works, and what worked was not computers because they didn't exist back then.
Right.
But I feel like I often wonder, like, I have the same thing as you, Lars. Like, I try to be open-minded, and I hope, like, when I'm 80 or whatever, assuming I, survive my suicide attempts, that like it'll be good and I'll be, into the technology. But I don't know, man. I feel like there's going to be things that like push what we're comfortable with, like, well, that we would like to think we're going to be hip and cool with, but we aren't. There'll be something even like super fucked.
They're
that we're
probably
like,
they're probably going to invent long distance fucking. Like you stick your dick in your phone, or you stick the phone in your pussy, and like you have sex with each other that way, and that's going to be the big thing we crack down on. We're going to have to be like, oh, you're too young for that. But secretly it's going to be, fuck, I wish I had that. That's awesome. Shit.
Or even like robot, like sex with robots or something, or people was like robosexuals, or people who have like legitimate relationships with robots, and people be like, that's not real marriage, or that's not real love or something. I don't know. I just wonder, like, what are those social issues going to look like for us?
You know what I just realized?
No.
Once they actually invent and perfect long distance sex, this is not to moralize or anything, but cheating is going to like skyrocket at that point.
Oh yeah, that's the hope though. One day we'll all just be fucking each other. Like I think that'd be nothing but a net positive. Can you imagine if like I'm just sitting around editing a video and I just go, I'd love to have sex with President Biden right now. And I just hop on like fucknet and he's online. I'm like, hey, you down? And he's like, sure, let's do it.
Will there also be like the simulation, like, they've kind of figured out how everyone had sex through history, like from like records that we have.
You can fuck whatever world leader you want.
Yeah, like, oh, we had it with, the
like a dinosaur.
We have reason to believe this is how we fucked, so this is like how the fuck machine is programmed for that one specific person, perhaps.
Do you think, Lars, tying into your fetish and what you just said, do you think anyone would care if you fucked a dinosaur? So well, let me elaborate. Like, obviously bestiality is wrong and gross. And if you fuck like a dog or something, everyone's going to hate you, as they should, because that's terrible. But do you think with dinosaurs, with how goofy they are and how completely detached from our current existence they are and how big they are, do you think anyone would hate you if you fucked one?
Okay, but
do you think anyone would
here's
care?
the thing. Cat physically even could you, because they're reptiles, so they lay eggs.
Exactly.
So do you even... Does that possibility exist? I don't know how reptiles reproduced, if I'm being completely honest.
Do we even know how dinosaurs reproduced?
I have no idea.
It's kind of hard to when you're a bunch of bones. I mean, that's what they all are.
I do find that funny when like somehow we're able to infer all this crazy shit from the bones. Like, yeah, they were this color and they lived on this diet and all this shit. It's like, how the fuck can you tell that from bones?
It's insane, man. I hate science sometimes because it makes you feel like the stupidest idiot ever. Because like you look at fucking like T-Rex skulls and you're like, wow, he was a big dinosaur and he had real big chompers, but then the fucking scientist comes in and he's like, based on the angle of the teeth and the erosion here and here, we could tell that he died clamping his mouth on a rock at approximately noon. And it's like, fuck you. Fuck you.
You also realize a lot of it's just made up. Like a lot of it is like, or say like the traditional dinosaur that we think of, like from Jurassic Park. There's just a lot of like artist interpretation. Like, yeah, they were probably green, I guess. And it's just like now part
Kudos,
of
you just got called out in the chat, by the way. They're apparently they're closer to birds than reptiles.
Well, because there's some people who say that they have feathers, not scales, right? Like,
They did.
The traditional way?
Dinosaurs evolved into modern birds because being that large didn't make sense in food-wise and other shit. So, in fact, one of the closest living dinosaur relatives is the chicken.
Oh.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So we've tamed the dinosaur. Humans win again.
Wait, so I was trying to get this in earlier, but there's just lots of noise going on.
Well, Lars, you never answered my question. If there were a human-sized dinosaur, would you fuck it, and would you feel bad about it?
Okay, so that there are a couple different parameters in which that could be the case, though. So are we talking about, like, now, where I just, like, have sex with a bag of bones?
Let's take your time travel question and loop it into this. Let's say that we've invented vacationary time travel. And the guy is like, all right, you got 30 minutes. I can put you anywhere you want. And, you know, if anything happens, you'll just be pulled back. But, you know, go back in time, observe whatever you want. And you, Lars, you go back to the age of the dinosaurs, the time you wanted to go to. And you come back and everyone goes, oh, how was it? What'd you do? And you say, literally, no joke, I fucked a dinosaur. I found a raptor or a comparable sized dinosaur and I fucked it. Do you think anyone would, like, care? Do you think they'd be upset?
And just to clarify, this is holodeck past or real past?
Real. Holodeck, no one should care. If it's a pure fantasy and you're not hurting anyone, who gives a shit? But I'm talking like you find a way to go back in time. Or today, let's say we make dinosaurs real. We reverse engineer the DNA and we're breeding dinosaurs and they're like flopping around and they become commonplace. It's like, oh, I see you went to Madagascar. Did you see the T-Rexes they have roaming around there? They're lovely this time of year. So one day, you're out in your backyard, you're watering your plants, your prize-winning azaleas, and a fucking, like, Slutosaurus pops in. And it's approximately your height, and its hole is made for your wiener. And you just decide, all right, whatever, fuck it. And you fuck the dinosaur. Do you think anyone would care? You said
something which is intriguing, which is that this dinosaur's hole is made for me. Like, it's.
I'm not going to discuss the details of genetic engineering, but yes, you know for a fact.
Okay, I feel like people would sympathize if, like, this dinosaur was designed for me,
like the hole from the horror story.
Yeah, I feel like if it wasn't, then it would be like bestiality. I mean, you're raping a dinosaur at that point.
I think it's bestiality both ways. I'm sure someone could probably breed dogs good for fucking. That doesn't make it okay.
That's it. I didn't even think of that.
I think I'm going to not recommend my mom not listen to this episode because it's just getting kind of disgusting. But yeah.
But I don't know. I just think, I guess in my brain, dinosaurs are in such a goofy category of their own.
Exactly.
That it's like kind of just funny. Like if you came up to me and you said something terrible, like, hey, I fucked that dog, I'd be like, you're a disgusting human being, you monster. I'm calling the police. Get away, blah, blah, blah. But if you came up to me and it was true, and we knew it was true, and you said, hey, man, I fucked a dinosaur, I think I'd just laugh. I don't think I'd have a problem with that. Yeah. And that's my point. Do you think anyone would have a problem with that?
Oh, I think some people on Twitter would.
Oh, well, you can say that about anything, though, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's like that other question in that same line of thinking where it's, would you rather have sex with a cat but no one thinks you did, or don't have sex with a cat but everyone thinks you did?
See, I would oh God, well, are we answering this or not?
I have an answer.
We don't have to. Everyone at home, bro, write your answer in the comments below.
I know exactly what my answer would be, but it's not a great question.
It's an awful question. It's one of those ones you're like, God damn it, you can't win. Let's move on.
Let's just leave that to the imagination.
So would you have sex with a dinosaur if everyone knew you did?
So I feel like ultimately that would be morally wrong, right?
All right,
I mean,
let's hit one closer to home. Would you fuck a whale?
Like in the
like John
blowhole?
McAfee, or
Well, like, because think about it. There's just some animals in my brain, and maybe it's just how I view it, but some of them it's like you treat them wholesomely, and the other one, they just kind of exist as a joke. Like the only affiliation we have with whales is all kind of like jokes. It's like, haha, whale songs, and oh, they're so fucking massive.
Whale.
You can swim in their bloodstream. Their tongue is bigger than you are. And like, yeah, you go in the ocean, they just fuck around like big dumb idiots. And it's like, we don't have that much of a personal connection to whales because they're still so alien. So if someone came up to me, and I guess it does tie into the John McAfee story, and someone came up to me and said, hey, I fucked a whale, I don't think I'd be offended or like, I'd be like, whoa, really? You know what I'm saying?
I probably wouldn't even register your little pencil dick anyway.
Exactly. I think there are certain animals where it crosses this line into like, how, rather than, oh my God, why? You know?
It's more. I guess also the size thing. Like,
Were you going to say it's more kid friendly?
No, it's like not the size thing. Like, because the whale's so much bigger than you, it almost feels like it's taking advantage of you.
Exactly. And I think dinosaurs and whales like fit this category where it's like, I don't think I'd be, it's crossing the line into ridiculous.
I think it's
Where
well
you
past
push
that
it so
line.
hard that your first reaction isn't going to be what's wrong with you. It's going to be, how did you do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's absurdist, as mentioned earlier.
Exactly. See, Kudos gets it. Fuck you, Lars.
What? I was agreeing.
Yeah, thanks, Kudos.
Hey, let's start our own podcast called The First Official Podcast.
Oh, that's not a bad idea, actually.
All right. So can we move on from like
Yes.
raping dinosaurs and stuff?
Hey, they'd consent. They were bred for you, remember?
Oh, wait. So how smart are dinosaurs, by the way? Because
Good
like,
question.
could they
A
consent?
good question. Let's ask the fucking scientists who can somehow figure that out from
See,
bones.
there's layers to the dinosaur. With homely animals we know, but with a dinosaur, if someone says I fucked it, someone might genuinely ask, well, did it consent? Did it like ask? Did it want it?
Yeah, either that's a really good question, or we're going to look like fucking idiots in the comment section.
We
So we'll
Do
see.
you think in any way I care what people think of me by this point in my life with all the
Oh, I
shit
know,
I've
I
done on
know.
the internet? I mean,
I'm just pointing out the comedy in
look,
it.
man, half the reason I started a podcast was to spew whatever stream of consciousness shit came to my mind.
Yeah.
So here we are, just an extension of that.
Comments are.
If I'm bringing you guys down, don't let me. I'll take the fall for worst episode of the show yet. I'm fine with that.
No, it's fine. I'll go there with you.
Oh, no, I think people are going to like this one.
Good.
All right. I think we should probably maybe do like one more topic and then call it.
Sure.
The topic
Okay.
about comments is kind of funny. Like if people genuinely get mad, or I don't know, you get comments on things where people really think you're genuinely super passionate about like whatever topic you bring up, and it's like, no, I just thought it would be funny, to be honest.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of the like trip mine in my line of work, especially when my comedy and content is focused around like satire and sarcasm.
Yeah.
People don't realize that I don't take a lot of this seriously. I just think it's fun to talk about.
Oh, dude.
So-
So I did a video where it was me and it was a clip from a live stream essentially, but it was, do you know who Yandere Dev is? The infamous
I do,
Yandere
yes.
Dev? Yes.
I
So,
do.
There is information out there about the fact that he owns a sex doll, and we found posts allegedly from him on a sex doll forum asking some very hilarious questions, and we put it through a text-to-speech, and I don't know about you, but text-to-speech remains as funny as it was when I found it at 10 years old in the computer lab and made it say the F word. But a lot of people got like super, like most people thought it was pretty funny, but a lot of people were like, wow, this is such an invasion of privacy. Like this is so, or,
God.
like they thought it was this like really in-depth thing, or like I was trying to smear his reputation or something.
Let me see if I can like try to point out the people I think you're talking about, because I think you guys are on the same page as me and you get it. If I walk into a room and I say, have you guys ever thought about fucking a dinosaur? The people that are cool are the guys that would talk about it and joke about it and be like, what are
Yeah.
you talking about? But the people that I hate and I never want to talk to, and I think you guys hate too, are the ones that go, "What's wrong with you? Why would you say that? How could you bring that up? Ew.
Yeah.
What made you think that?" It's like, it's just funny. It's just a fun thing to talk about. Don't think about it too hard.
That's what I was going to say. Is that all these comments it was some like in-depth smear campaign that I was trying to ruin Yandere devs. Honestly, the reason I uploaded that video is the text-to-speech voices were really funny. Like, there's the only, like that was the level of thinking in my, in my brain when I made that video. But people really think I'm out here like trying to champion some cause or something. It's like, no,
I don't get it, man.
It's just funny, man. I thought it was funny. I thought the robot voice was funny.
Maybe it's just because the modern internet means that you're going to see everyone's opinion. So the people that can say something about it will. But, oh, God, I'm just sick of those people where it's like you come up with something and they want to like deconstruct why you're doing it rather than just going with it and having fun.
Yeah.
Like,
sure.
Like you bring up these ideas or there's fun things or you're like, hey, I did this thing. It's the people who are like, why? It's like, who cares about the why? Just go with it. It's fucking fun.
Yeah, it's funny as well when people say like, "Why would you do that?" But then you've got like 200,000 views on it. It's like why.
So I'll give you a great recent example. A lot of people might know this, but I recently on Twitter commissioned $800 worth of furry porn. So I didn't even tell this story on this show.
Well.
It was fucking incredible. It came out great, and to me that's really funny. So I did it. And a lot of people, like, they thought it was funny. Some people thought it was legitimately great porn, and more power to them. But the people where I'm just like, oh, God, and I don't even want to talk to them, are the people who are like, why is this in my timeline? I need to bleach my eyeballs from seeing this. What the hell is wrong with you? What were you thinking? It's like, it's a funny thing to do. It's just goofy and fun. Yeah. What's the problem? Lighten up.
Yeah, have some fun. Just chill out.
Have some fun with it. Fuck it. Who cares? If you object to the content, that's one thing. If you don't want to see like porn on your timeline, fine, just move on. But the fact I did it is it's just funny. It really is.
The fact that people would like read into it as like some kind of like,
exactly.
Does Huggbees want to fuck a cat in real life? It's like
exactly. It's
just, Dawson.
There's just so much. There's so much interesting shit on the internet and weird communities and interesting things people do. And my first inclination always is to get in there and see what they're doing and be like, oh, wow, look what they're doing. What's this thing they're about? Ooh, what are they passionate about? Like one classic example is the Sonic the Hedgehog fans. Yeah. And it's like, it's such a surface level to people where it's like, oh, they wrote fan fiction having sex with Sonic, and ew, they drew porn of Sonic, and ew, they want to talk about his feet. It's like, yeah, okay, that's amusing, and yeah, you can like shit on them for that, but you're not even getting to the fun stuff, like where they write about like healing crystals and how it saps away their energy and they draw these horrible deformed skeletons of them, or how people want to like duct tape Sonic to their feet and go for a run, or like all this weird like alternate universes that they craft around all this stuff. And it's like, that's the fun stuff to me. Just get into the minds of people and see like what weird stuff they're doing and just have fun with it. So to me, I don't care if people think I'm weird or fucked up or doing like objectable shit. I think it's fun and funny to just do like have a weird new thing I'm doing every week.
It's like a positive nihilism where it's just like everything's a joke, but that's okay.
Exactly. Yes.
I think I can give some insight into this, by the way, because I used to be one of those people that you're talking about when I was younger.
The Sonic people?
No. No, the stop having fun, guys. We shouldn't. This is an awkward thing to talk about.
Exactly.
I can't believe it. Okay. I used to be one of those people, and I stopped because I realized that the reason why is because I actually kind of did want to talk about like really weird stuff with people and just get in weird conversations. But
it's fun.
I was under the impression that if I did that people would dislike me for it.
I'm gonna make a kind of controversial stance right now, but it's something I've stood for a while. I think that if you're a type of person who dismisses things as cringe, or looks at these kind of things and says there's other meme words, but like around those phrases like, oh, this is cringe, or oh, why would you post this, or whatever. You're just a boring person.
Yeah,
you're just flat out uninteresting. Because what it means is you're dismissing this stuff rather than going with it. Now, caveat. some of it is genuinely harmful. Like some things cross the line. Don't do weird stuff with children. Don't do weird stuff with animals, etc. Don't actively bully other people. I get that. That's where you say, no, this is awful, fuck this stuff.
And some stuff is genuinely cringy to look like you have that physical reaction.
And things are embarrassing.
But that's fun though. Like that's also kind of it's like watching a horror movie.
Secondhand embarrassment is totally fine. If you're watching like awkward situations and you're laughing at it or going, oh, I feel bad for them, that's fine too. But if you see dedicated fan bases or people who clearly are like excited about what they're doing, even if it's not very good, don't shit on them. Encourage it. Let them be creative. Have fun with it. Make it work for you rather than trying to shut it down. That's how I view this kind of stuff. You know, like I could have thought about this stuff and I could have shut it down. With the fucking Persona stuff, I could have been like, what am I, a furry? No. Ugh. Ew, you want that porn of this? Oh, God, what's wrong with you? Haha, funny joke, guys. But no, I went with it. And I got something great out of it. And it's way funnier that it happened. Rather than me trying to look cool or me trying to like be this righteous man of like, oh, I'm not okay with that. Like, no, it's fun. If it doesn't hurt other people, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Anything. It doesn't matter how weird it is. If you care what other people are judging you on this kind of stuff, then they're boring people to begin with. Fuck them. Who cares?
I agree.
So that's how I stand on all of it.
Yeah.
I don't think that's really controversial.
I don't know. It does weigh you down a bit when you go on Twitter and it's like, here's why this thing is an issue, and you look into it and it's like not even an issue.
I guess it's me being controversial against social media because there's tons of communities where it's like, oh, this is cringe and here's why, or oh, why would you post this, or oh, this is totally like not okay, when it's just harmless shit.
Okay.
Like people extrapolating something that, like you say, is harmless, doesn't hurt anyone. It was just someone like by themselves enjoying something or whatever.
Like you'll have fucking people that go on Twitter, and I'm just gonna pull something out of my ass. Let's say they're watching like My Little Pony, and they go, "Hey, I drew all of the ponies as like Gundams." And like obviously people in the fandom will be like, "Oh, this is cool," but then you'll have a ton of people that are like, "Oh, this is fucking cringe. Why would you do this? You're ruining Gundam." And it's like, no, they're not. He just likes two things and wanted to draw them together. What the fuck's wrong with that? Shut up. Shut the fuck up, you. Stop bullying them just because they like things. What's wrong with liking things? That's my question, you know? If it's not harmful, if you're not hurting people, if you're not doing things that are genuinely like actually detrimental, what's wrong with liking stuff? That's it. Let them like it. It's fine.
I agree. I mean, there's no two ways about it, unfortunately. And you know, like, that's just how it is, and that's how it's always going to be. So,
yeah, maybe I'm just getting mad at children on the internet.
Yeah. Also, I'm in a situation. I know it's so like wanky to be like, oh, I don't use social media, but literally right now, the only social media I have is Twitter, and that's almost 100% for professional or business stuff.
I'm the same way, dude. I'm the same way. I'm making a real hard kick to quit, and I currently only use Twitter to reach out to other creators for the most part now.
Same here, yeah. So I did this thing where I decided I was going to log off Facebook, and I was only going to ever go on there when I needed to, and it just hasn't really come up. Like, there's never... I haven't needed it at all. There's never been a situation where I needed it, and I feel like that's probably healthy to just not use it then at that point.
It's kind of weird for me living in like Australia and New Zealand because everyone here uses it, like they use the messenger part of Facebook. Like we don't, no one here uses like WhatsApp or even like texts each other. It's so much easier just to be like, oh, hey, like you meet someone, they're like, hey, look me up on Facebook and like we can message there or whatever.
And that's the funny thing too, because you'll have people that are in it that say you're missing out and you're not. Like, I love my mother. She's a great, sweet woman, but she Facebooks all day, every day.
Same.
And she will send me a Facebook link, and she'll like send it to me, and I'll go, oh, I don't have a Facebook account. I can't look at it. She'll be like, oh, that's too bad. There's things I want to show you that you're missing out on. So one time she sent me a link, and my girlfriend's got a Facebook profile. So I sent her the link, and I said, hey, can you just show me what this is? And it was immediately just like, oh, 7 times President Trump made a big dumb mistake. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm not missing out. I'm good.
Yeah.
I think I'm all right.
Yeah, well, not even because of that aspect. I mean, that's a whole nother thing. Thankfully, don't have a lot of US politics on my Facebook, thankfully. But Yeah, the few times I do
Yeah.
actually stray from the mess, because I literally just use Messenger to talk to my real life friends, and every now and then, just without looking, without thinking, I'll browse Facebook for 2 minutes, and I'm like, this fucking sucks now. What
It does. It really does. If you're in the fucking rabbit hole, it's like fine and you browse it. But after I quit Twitter for a long while, I went back, I browsed it for 3 minutes, and just everything that came up, I was like, this fucking blows.
Yeah.
Why am I even on this? I'm wasting time.
Legit, the only good thing I can think of for Facebook is if you're into like a hobby locally, like just the groups are good for that. Like I was playing Magic the Gathering for a while back in Wellington, and that was just a good way to like find what events are on, or if you want to like trade with people or something like that. That it's good for that, like for local groups or hobbies and stuff. Outside of that, and I guess Messenger, outside of that, it's cancer. Cancer for boomers.
Social media has a purpose as a what's the term where it's not the main thing but it like adds to it? A social like addendum? I don't think that's the right word.
What? I don't understand.
Where you have something that is not supposed to be the focus of something but rather supposed to enhance it. Do you know what word I'm talking about? No, it's got like a term where it's like you say it's a like social blank, or like a flavor blank, or a party blank. It basically there's some fucking word I'm looking for. It doesn't matter. But to me, social media works when it's not your social activity. It like enhances your social activity. So if you're using Twitter to message people or find out what they're doing, or you go on Facebook to see events or things that are happening near you, that's great. That is the way to do it. I guess enhancer is the term. Maybe. I don't know. It's not
Augment.
important.
Let's go with that.
Yeah, augmenter. Yeah, it augments it. That's great. If it augments and enhances your social connections, that works great. You use it to find people that you're trying to talk to, or people that have a common interest. You're looking to get on events. That's great. But when you're like how a lot of kids growing up today are now, or a lot of adults that fall into the trap where it's your only social outlet, it's a fucking toxin. Yeah. It's fucking negative and demeaning and judgmental, and it's like the most basest caveman non-respectful interactions you can have with people, and it eats away. It's just awful. It really fucking is.
It is fascinating how I don't know how they did it, but they somehow managed to completely suck all boomers into Facebook. Like my dad, for example, was so against it for the longest time, and he would always make a point about, like, he begrudgingly made what
the word is conduit.
There you go.
That's not the word I would use, but
yeah, it helps facilitate it. It's a social conduit. There it is.
Yeah, my dad was really against it, and he would even make statuses like, "Oh, just so you know, I'm never using this. Like, if you message me, I might not message you back." And now he posts like every day. I don't know what it is. It's like crack for boomers, because everyone under the age of like 50 moved away from it, and now it's just nothing but like boomers posting really bad political takes and shit.
Well, that's why Facebook is kind of dying now. Their latest stats for many years have been the young people are just leaving because it's all old people now.
Yeah. I guess most young people are now on Instagram, so Facebook still wins at the end of the day.
Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is. But I mean, Facebook's old, and they always latch on whatever the newest one is.
Yeah,
it's also terrible for marketing too. I've tried advertising the podcast on it way back in the day. The return for your investment is like zero. It's just terrible.
There are platforms. There's people who do, like, it's their whole job to just analyze what platforms have what returns, and Facebook is notoriously just like, it's like flash in the pan. You'll occasionally get something that a bunch of like casual internet users will see and then completely forget about, but to take off from it or actually launch something from it is nearly impossible.
Yep.
So,
well, this has been kind of like depressing and negative for a little while. Let's
do one more uplifting topic. I've got some time to spare. Let's do a good one. How long are episodes normally?
Normally they're like an hour or 30, but I mean, this has been flowing, so it's like it's fine.
Sorry,
this has been vibing, baby.
You let me rant. That was the first mistake.
So, what's like a more uplifting topic then that we could talk about for a second?
Do you guys care about wrestling?
Not enough to sustain.
Can't say I do.
I can bring up a fun wrestling moment I got to like relive over the internet a while ago.
Yeah, go on.
Would it be
So-
interesting, like in general, or?
Oh yeah. You don't need to know wrestling to find it funny. And
okay.
I have proof because I showed this to my girlfriend who doesn't give a flying fuck about wrestling. So I grew up on wrestling, like Attitude Era, WWF, WCW. Like until I was about 15, it was all I fucking cared about. I obsessed over it. It was the greatest.
Sure.
So recently, I've been rewatching old wrestling clips and like getting into it, and just it holds up really well. If you know what you're getting into, I forgot how good it used to be. It's pretty kind of shit now. At least WWE is the main player. Apparently, AEW is a new one and they're really good, but I haven't gotten around to watching it yet. But anyway, back in the day, they were super, super fucking good and entertaining. There's this moment that I was cry laughing at. It fucking hurt me, and I'm imploring you guys and your audience, when you get a moment, to go watch it. It is the 2005 Royal Rumble. And so the Royal Rumble, for those of you who don't know what it is a traditional yearly event that wrestling does where 30 people enter the ring. I think it's 30. And they enter one by one. And if you're thrown out of the ring after you enter, you're out. So you get in. If someone throws you out, you're out of the match. And the last person in the ring wins. They win the whole thing. And the whole point is that the last man standing gets like a title shot at the big pay-per-view, or they get like a prize or something. It's a big deal. So it's the finals of the Royal Rumble. The last two competitors are in the ring, and I'm sure you know these names. John Cena versus Batista. You know, common household names.
Big boys.
Both big movie stars now, both big names. Even the common man is going to know like who these people are that it's happening to. So in the script, Batista is supposed to win. Batista's playing the bad guy. John Cena's playing the good guy during this era of wrestling. And it's supposed to be an upset victory where Batista beats John Cena. So Batista picks up John Cena for a powerbomb. So he's got John Cena on his shoulders, but Batista slips and falls backwards. And like fucking poetry, they fall out of the ring at the exact same time. Now, Vince McMahon, the owner of WWE, who has been the owner for literally like 40 years now, is a notorious perfectionist and giant asshole, and has been known to yell at wrestlers when they fuck up in the slightest bit and be a real piece of shit. So, Batista and John Cena fall out of the ring at the same time. Batista is supposed to win. Everyone is panicking, but doing a great job of improvising. They have like 3 referees and 2 ringside officials in the ring. John Cena is saying, "I won," and Batista saying, "No, I won." And they're doing a really good job improvising it. Like, the referees declare Batista landed last, so he wins. But like one of the officials is like, "No, John Cena has a claim," because they fell out at the same time. And it's like, okay, you know, this is getting dramatic. This is interesting. But Vince McMahon doesn't like that. Vince McMahon is a big old perfectionist. So Vince McMahon, totally unscripted, completely unrelated to any of this. Like, he is not supposed to be out here. He is not supposed to go into the ring. It's not part of the show. Storms down the runway with a big frumpy gorilla walk. The man literally looks like he shat himself. He has a very awkward walk, but he is like a fucking, like his legs are in braces and he is power walking. He throws his jacket down. He is screaming. And this is not scripted. This is not how it's supposed to go. He is literally going to the ring to actually yell at these two for fucking it up. But what happens is when Vince McMahon slides into the ring, he slams his legs into it when trying to get in and ruptures both of his quads. They explode. His quadricep muscles both fucking explode on impact. Now, this means he can no longer walk. So, what he's supposed to do is stand up in the ring and start yelling at those two. But right when he takes a step up, he fucking crumples to the floor. And trying to save face, he slides to the corner of the ring and sits like a child in timeout. So, no one knows what the fuck is happening. No one knows that he hurt himself. He's just sitting in the ring like a spoiled little baby, but with like this look of disbelief at what's happening, and also like looking pissed that the match is such a fucking debacle. So the guy at the announcement booth, JR, is trying his best to cover what's happening, and he goes, "My God, the chairman is sitting in the ring!" And like, all the fans have no fucking idea what's happening. So Batista, trying to like cover up what's going on, grabs John Cena and throws him out of the ring. And then he goes, "There, I threw him again, I won." And it's very clearly they're just doing whatever. And then John Cena runs in the ring and throws Batista out of the ring. and the whole time, Vince McMahon is sitting on the ground with his legs splayed out like a 4-year-old, pouting like a little baby. And he's trying so hard to be intimidating and yell at them, but he can't even get up. And then finally he talks to the announcer, and the announcer goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, by order of the chairman, this match will be restarted." So they restart the match, Batista versus John Cena. The way that it wraps up that they don't show on TV is Vince McMahon is so proud and prideful, he refuses any assistance getting out of the ring, limps to backstage, which makes his destroyed quads even worse, and hobbles into his limo to drive him to a hospital rather than calling an ambulance or using one of the standby EMTs.
What a story, Mark.
And it's a fucking great story, and I implore any of you out there listening, find some time, watch the clip on YouTube, because it does not do it justice just hearing it. It's a funny story, but watching it happen is really fucking funny. Just the look of disbelief when Vince shatters his legs in half, but he still has to be mean and intimidating. It's really good.
That's awesome. I'll go definitely check
It's
that out.
really good.
I think it's really interesting. I don't really watch wrestling, but I think wrestling is most interesting when something goes wrong in a lot of cases. And like my knowledge of it is pretty much limited to the Super Eye Patch Wolf videos on wrestling, so I don't exactly know too much, but I find that really interesting. Like I remember reading about the curtain call and like the effects on wrestling as a whole because of that. I think that it's a fascinating topic. It's just not something I consume regularly.
Oh yeah, I don't care about it much at all anymore, but as a kid I grew up with it and loved it. So I'm just going on this hole for literally nostalgia's sake, and just down that spiral I found this, and I was laughing probably for a solid 20 minutes at just how fucking goofy it looks. It's so good. And there's tons of wrestling interviews talking about it and tons of people talking about the event. It's even if you don't care at all about wrestling, it's such a weird and funny like fuck up that happens. Yeah. It's so good. It's so good.
All right. So I think we'll go ahead and call it a close here if you guys are ready.
Sure.
Yeah, works for me.
Andrew, if people want to consume your stuff, what's the best way to do that?
Oh, God, I do a lot of stuff. Well, I mentioned earlier in the episode, I'm part of the official podcast. You can find that on YouTube and Spotify, iTunes podcast, pretty much anywhere that podcasts are. I also have my own personal channel where all my love and heart and soul goes to, which is Huggbees, Huggbees. I'm the creator of How It's Actually Made, as we mentioned earlier, a lot of other shorts. Every now and then I'll also stream on Twitch, Huggbees TV, and Twitter is also Huggbees TV, where I'll post updates on whatever the fuck I'm doing. But if you Google Huggbees, you'll find pretty much everything I'm doing. So, yeah.
All right. Kudos, where can people find your stuff?
Yeah.
Amir, where can people find your stuff? All right.
None of this matters.
All right. You've been listening to the First Podcast. Subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. YouTube.com/C/TheFirstPodcast. Donate on Patreon. Patreon.com/T1Podcast to get bonus episodes of the show, early listening privileges, a patron-only role and a chat, and more. I think that's going to do it.
I just want to say kudos. Thank you so much for having me on. I loved meeting
welcome.
you.
Yep.
Lars, you did okay.
All right. All jokes aside, by the way, I always love having a podcaster guest on because the process is inherently smoother. Like, they know what to do.
I was very tempted for the first 10 minutes to only give one-word answers, but I don't think the show went that way.
Yeah.
Just like me messaging girls in high school.
Well, I think... Oh, well, Andrew, you guys should know about a certain guest that only gave one-word answers and why that was a bad idea on your podcast.
And I'm still not saying who it is.
All right. I think I figured it out, but that's fine.
That's the fun thing. It's super obvious. If you piece the clues together, there's really only one person it can be.
Yeah, on one of the earlier episodes, you just straight up mentioned, "Oh yeah, we're gonna have this guy on," and he never came on. So it's like it's very obvious. But
I think that the agreement we've come to is we won't say who it is, but if people guess it, we'll confirm it. So Lars, if you DM me your guess and you're right, I'll tell you.
Okay, 1 second.
Okay, if you do that, then message me it because I don't. I don't.
Yep, that's it.
Yep. All right.
Yep.
I'm not gonna reveal it either.
Isn't it obvious? Like once you know who it is, isn't it super obvious?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Lars from Norway, DM me it.
Okay, I will a little bit later.
Thank
Okay.
you, Lars.
All right, and yeah. Again, Andrew, always a pleasure. Thanks for coming on, bud.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. I'm
Yeah,
glad I
great
could
talking
take
to you,
your
man.
hour-long show and make it 2 hours 15 minutes.
Yeah.
That's the vibe.
All right. We had you take the episode in. Can you take the episode out?
Sure. Thank you so much for taking a pause break from the official podcast, maybe keeping it, warm on standby on your Bluetooth speaker, but then your friend who you invite sometimes to go out, but you're not really sure what you think of him, decided, hey, you should check out this podcast instead, which brought you here to the first podcast. Overall, though, I would probably be conservative in my ratings of this show. I'd give it a solid, 10 out of 10, maybe, probably.
Man,
If
God
I
damn it.
if I was being nice, it'd be like an 11. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see. And you've been listening to the first podcast to feature a man who had sex with a dinosaur. That's Lars, as well as a man who has memorized every single word of the New Zealand safety airline instructional videos, which would be kudos. And finally, a host who contributes absolutely nothing, should be removed from the show. Literally didn't say a word this whole episode. Mr. Amir, thank you for having me on, Amir. And I've been Andrew, and I can talk for hours. I'm so sorry.
It's fine. Oh, there's another episode with Huggbees. You guys should go listen to it as well. Way back in the day.
I did this before. I forgot. I'd love to have sex with President Biden right now.